NDA in the matrice poll as well, very, very comfortably placed. The Gathbandhan 70 to 90, crashing even further. And here, JSP is projected to get even fewer, just between 0 and 2. The Gathbandhan together, this is the VIP, the RJD, the Congress, all together, just between 70 and 90. The RJD by itself in the last election was more, and the NDA between 147 and 167, with the majority mark being 122. Veer Sanghvi, the first two pollsters, putting the NDA in a very, very comfortable position.
Yeah, that's not that much of a surprise, even if you leave aside the fact of pollsters are often wrong and we shouldn't treat this as gospel. If you talk to people within the Congress, there's already a sense in which they've lost the election. They believe that Tejaswi's appeal was not enough, and they believe, and they will say this a lot in case they do lose, that they were fighting a very powerful coalition, not just Nitish and Modi, but also the Chief Election Commissioner. And they have said from the beginning that they were going to lose because the election is rigged. Now, you can argue about whether it is or it isn't, but this is not going to surprise anyone, these results.
Chetan Bhagat now joins us. Will we hear, Chetan, a lot of this from the opposition ranks about vote chori, vote adhikar, which is what they'll try and attribute this victory to, saying, you know, it's because the election was somehow stolen from the Gathbandhan?
Yeah, they will. I mean, they will, but I think they can do it on the surface, but internally, I hope there is a lot more introspection. But Maharashtra before, and if these results hold Bihar, these are the two biggest states after UP. I mean, this almost shows that the Lok Sabha elections were an aberration. Like the NDA's performance not being that good. We thought that something is changing in Indian politics, but looks like that somehow the Lok Sabha was an aberration. And Maharashtra and Bihar in the bag, like therefore the whatever 2029, I mean, they don't have to worry anymore.
Amitabh Tiwari, you did a poll as well with Vote Vibe. Where are those numbers? Why are we talking about the other people's numbers and not yours?
We'll be releasing tomorrow.
Why tomorrow?
Because people are still in queues voting. And in 2020, the lead of NDA was coming from this zone of 16, 17 seats. This is a high minority population area. 65% of Muslims of Bihar live in these 122 seats. 65%. And if there is a very high turnout, especially in Simanchal and other areas like even in Bhagalpur or Tirhut, then we have to, ring up more numbers. We have to increase the sample size. I mean, we cannot just rely on a lower number.
The people who release the polls now.
Kishanganj is 77% as of now.
Correct.
Punya 74%. So these are high numbers.
And last time there was a division of vote between AIMIM and RJD Congress alliance. If this is consolidated, I mean, we just want to hold our.
There is no ask you a technical question. The people who release these polls right now, immediately at 6:30, the polls come out. How do they do it for today's polling? Do they have a 4:30 p.m. cutoff?
Yeah, they will all have their own cutoffs, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5. I mean, 5 is very, very difficult because the data comes. So it's likely to be 2 p.m., 3 p.m. cutoffs.
Prabhu Chawla?
Or a continuation.
Chetan Bhagat made, a very arguable point right at the outside. He says that this basically means that 2029 itself is settled. Would that not be too premature? What's your sense?
Like what is happening, that we are going on the assumption that our exit polls are all right. Where Election Commission has not given the figures, we are also predicting the election on the basis of what figures we think are right. Yeah. Okay, assuming that they are correct. But my conclusion is two different conclusions. I am not going into the merit whether it's right or wrong, because the Election Commission has not given the figures out. But 3 points are emerging out of this poll very clear. They are directing towards India's victory, correct. But one thing which we have never discussed in this discussion, how many new voters have been added to the voter list? Nobody has given me this data. In the entire discussion, every discussion will take place by young voters who are
So about 2.2% of the voters are between 18 and 19.
And what is their percentage voted?
Yeah, 2.2% of the total.
Let me complete the photo. New voters have also played a very important role, if this is correct. Mahila, of course, have played the role there. And what I have been saying from the beginning, that Jan Swaraj Party is not a party at all in the reckoning. This is what is reflecting here. Although you are playing so much, you will get this, you will get this. If this is
Rashtra, you worked with Prashant Kishor. You said in some ways yes.
Because he has got these 5 seats. I don't know whether he'll get those 5 or not.
0 to 5.
Because he was supposed to get into upper caste votes. If he has failed, it means these votes which were supposed to go against NDA. They have not gone to NDA. They have been consolidated there. So the 3 factors are very clear. New voters are voted, women are voted, and Jan Swaraj Party has not proved to be.
No, but if I look at the vote share, what you're seeing on your screen right now are the seat share numbers. If I look at the vote share, the NDA is projected to get 46.2% of the vote in the People's Pulse data. The Gathbandhan 37.9% of the vote, and the Jan Swaraj 9.5% of the vote. 9.7%, that's not a bad start. 9.7.
And that's also called vote cutter.
Out of 243 seats he contested, yeah, if he collects 5 or 30.
Okay, then that
Almost 1 in
explains
10
it.
people in Bihar voting. It may not translate into seats.
I'm just saying
but that's more than what Chirag got in the last election.
That is a
whether
phenomenal
you
performance,
like-
but that also is vote cutter
Whether
for
you
the
like
NGP.
Prashant Kishor or no, the fact is here's a guy without any lineage, come into a difficult state like Bihar, risked everything. Nobody will take him as a poll strategist now because he's lost his own election, put his money on the line. You've got to give the guy a round of applause. He's put his money where his mouth is. You can agree or disagree. Getting
No, but
10%
I
in
think
Bihar
Prabhu
is not
Chawla has a
easy.
very strong point, Kanchan Gupta. If he says if the end you have 0 to 5 to show for what you've got, how much of an applause do you deserve for that?
See, again, let's go back to the last time we were discussing Prashant Kishor's party. The consensus here was that if he hits 8%, he will start grabbing seats from both
Start
sides.
picking up some seats.
But if he's already hit 8% and he comes up with 0 to 5 or 0 to 2, then that means A, he hasn't really hit the 8% marker. B, again, people are now very wise. They will not waste their vote on someone who is not going to win or who doesn't have a fighting chance to win an election.
One of the other big things to look at would be the breakup between the different parties. And if I look at the breakup of the Bharatiya Janata Party, I'm referring to the Matriz data, the BJP is projected to be between 65 to 73, the Janata Dal United between 67 and 75. Veer Sanghvi, that will count for a lot. On counting day, does the JDU come up on top or does the BJP? Who carries the bragging rights that morning?
I think it'll matter. It'll also matter because of the Nitish Kumar factor. What we don't realize, sometimes we don't emphasize enough, is that whatever happens, this election is the end of an era. Nitish Kumar will not lead the alliance into the next election. By the next election, you'll have so many young voters who will have forgotten Lalu. They just will be on his own. It'll work perhaps to his advantage. There won't be all of that jungle Raj. So what happens in this new environment? Does the BJP take the lead? Do Nitish's people still say they won? And if they won, how long will it last? How long can Nitish last? How long can his appeal last?
Kanchan Gupta, is it in your view a given that Nitish Kumar, if these numbers hold on the 14th, will be Chief Minister? Or do you think if the BJP comes up on top, they may want to revisit that?
Well, I think the BJP has already made it abundantly clear that there is no vacancy at the top, and Nitish Kumar remains Chief Minister. If the Mahagathbandhan does not form the government and it's the NDA forming the government, we know who's going to be the Chief Minister, and it's Nitish Kumar. So just talking about it doesn't make much sense because the BJP is pretty clear that we are not looking at a vacancy at the top.
The other thing to look at is that the Vikashsheel Insan Party, the Malla Party, the Fisherman Party is projected to get just 1% of the vote and between 2 and 3 seats. So the idea, Amitabh Tiwari, that the Gathbandhan had, that they'd be able to turn this into much more than a Muslim Yadav coalition by getting some of the EBCs like Lalu Yadav used to, that doesn't seem to have materialized in the data that we've seen so far.
Yeah, so as per this poll, so what we have to see is that whenever two parties join hands, while some groups come together, some other groups also wean away from the alliance. The Malla community is seen as an aggressive community in Bihar. Some of the lower EBC caste groups see the Malla community as aggressive. So what may also happen is that you already have an anti-Yadav politics which is happening in Bihar, and now you have added a Malla, which is again seen as very aggressive by the EBC community. So at one point you are trying to woo the lower EBCs, but you have an
Okay, I've just received word that now the third post poll, this is by the print media organization Dainik Bhaskar. They've got stringers on the ground. So this is the data that Dainik Bhaskar has put out. Let's just take the Dainik Bhaskar numbers as well. So this is the third poll that we're looking at. This is from Dainik Bhaskar. Let's take a look and try and understand what Dainik Bhaskar is saying. Coming up on your screen for the first time, the post poll numbers put out by Dainik Bhaskar. Here it is, breaking news. Right now, Dainik Bhaskar is projecting an NDA win. So the third poll out this evening, once again, projecting an NDA victory 145 to 160 for the NDA, again in the same range as Matriz. They're also projecting that the NDA will win. They're projecting that the Jan Swaraj will do very badly, and just 73 to 91 for the Mahagathbandhan. And they're essentially saying that the Jan Swaraj will win no seat at all. Dainik Bhaskar is the first poll that's saying that the Jan Swaraj will win no seat at all. But the range broadly of the three polls is the same. The direction that's come out first is NDA very comfortably placed. Now it's only a question of the margin of victory on the day of counting. The three polls that are out projecting that the NDA will get well past the 122 mark. Can things change? Are you still hopeful, Tehseen Poonawalla, that maybe these pollsters are wrong? Maybe it's just some grand conspiracy? Or are you resigned to the fact that this is kind of what it looks like?
No, why would it be a conspiracy? I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but I do believe that opinion polls in the past have gone wrong. In 2024, everybody believed the NDA is crossing 400. It did not happen. And there are factors, because if the factor what Kanchan Dada says that that it's not going to get, Prashant Kishor is not getting 8 or 9% vote, and Chetan calls that a vote katwa, then that 8-9% is coming to us. If Prabhu sir says there's 15 lakh new voters, I don't see why they should vote Nitish ji. So I do believe then those votes that have been attributed to others could come to us, and it could be a closer fight. I do believe that.
It could also, Chetan, be a morning which settles very quickly if this is how it seems.
It will, like, yeah, could be very boring. But it's just the way it is. But
you're finding an NDA victory boring? I don't think people in the BJP will like that very much.
No, it's not like that. It's just that they always win. It's like, even if India keeps winning in cricket, it will ultimately get boring, right? So it will be fun for NDA, but for the people like us who are...
You watch what you're saying. You want India to lose.
I don't want India to lose. We want India to have a good fight. When you play cricket, who wants to see a cricket match in which in 10 overs it's decided?
No, you can't see this.
Ashok Malik, Chetan Bhagat is saying that an NDA victory to him looks very boring. The fact is,
it's what happens all the time.
Speak to any politician who sweated it out
they make it look easy. However, I think what has happened is, you said 9% vote share for JSP, which is incredible. The BJP,
in one of the polls.
Yeah, but the BJP should send a nice gift hamper to Prashant Kishor, because even if there was anti-incumbency, some of it went to Prashant Kishor, because his whole brand was everything new in Bihar, everybody is like in trends, sab mile hue hain ji, the same version here, and then you see the votes.
But what's Dainik giving?
If NDA gets more votes than it was last time, then no NDA, then they vote. Whose votes have gone? It means
but
RJD votes have gone. Don't go into
the person who has voted for Prashant voted for one of those two last time.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
What were they more likely to vote for?
But if NDA gets the same number
of votes, but the point also to remember is about 25% are others as well. So it's not like they voted just for one of the two.
We'll have to say round Rahul.
Others as well.
He's got the
Ashok Malik,
not the RJD.
you know, they're making a habit of winning, and Chetan Bhagat's not finding that very exciting.
Of course, from a watching, like, if you do you want to see a boxing match?
इतना दूर से आया हूँ बॉम्बे से यार, ये तो मैच ही 10 मिनट में खत्म हो गया.
आप मेरे को एक बात बताइए, you want to see a boxing match with knockout?
JSP?
All the time there's a knockout. Because that's what it's happening.
Okay, let Ashok respond to that.
More seriously, no election result is boring, irrespective of what happens. Every election result leads to some sort of a message from the electorate. There are two things here. One, frankly, whether Prashant Kishor takes 9% or 3% is less relevant if these indeed are the results. It means that the Chirag Paswan, Nitish Kumar, BJP alliance has worked perfectly, if these numbers are correct. I think that is also a factor. Chirag Paswan coming into the NDA fold, and it has obviously worked perfectly if indeed these are the numbers. I would like to know, again, if possible, from these opinion polls, what the seat divide is, if there's any indication.
We have some regional breakup. We'll do that in a moment. But Amitabh Tiwari, would you say that it's safe to declare that the direction is very clear? The margins may change. So maybe, somebody picked the margin right and somebody didn't. But the fact that the NDA is comfortably in the lead and the Gathbandhan is unlikely to come to power, that seems to be quite clear at the moment.
I'll answer it in another manner. If Mahagathbandhan wins, it does not have the stamina to cross 125 seats. It does not have the stamina. If NDA wins, the bottom starts at 125.
No, you are also Arshif. How did you swing in two different
अरे
directions?
भाई हमारा तो अभी डेटा ही नहीं आया है तो हम कैसे
So you're saying NDA has the edge?
नहीं नहीं, इनके first phase का data है. Give us. Are you suggesting that your data is different from what we are seeing so far?
phase 1 is pretty close. I mean, not very
That's what you're saying.
skewed in that sense.
No, but remember in the first phase, the RJD in 2020 had
Correct.
a very big lead. So if phase 1 is close and phase 2 is clear, then again the direction is set. Okay, so what I'm going to do is slip into a break.
Rahul, can I just quickly
Yes,
make
sir.
one point? You know, if we take that there are 15 lakh first-time voters, how many of them would have voted for Prashant Kishor? So if it's a bulk of them who have voted for Prashant Kishor and his thing of a shining Bihar, new Bihar, baggage out, all virtues in, so that would mean neither of the two main alliances would have benefited from the first-time voter. And that vote would have actually gone to waste.
I make a point.
Yes, please.
You're saying 48% NDA already. And this NDA is now in 2025 different than NDA in 2020. At that time, they were not together. So you have to come into the picture. If 48% they're getting according to your projection, it means the votes which have gone to NDA, they are from the Gathbandhan. Because their votes must have come down because of that. So Prashant Kumar has not been able to take away any NDA vote. He has either taken Mahagathbandhan vote. The
No, it
total loss
also
of votes-
shows.
How can if he's taking Mahagathbandhan, is Sir suggesting he's taking Muslim votes? I don't think so, sir.
No, no,
Because the
I'm not-
percentage
no, but
going up in
I'm just
the
going by
the
what
point
they
that
show.
Ashok Malik
I'm going
made,
by
Veer,
what they're
that
showing.
it's so much
I don't
about
have
caste that if you've got the Paswans, you've got the EBCs with Nitish Kumar, you've got the upper caste and the others who support the BJP, it's way too formidable a team given what they were up against.
Absolutely. And I think the point about Prashant Kishor is you've never had somebody who's a complete outsider come in and make any kind of significant impact. People talk about NTR, but he was already a big star. People talk about Kejriwal, but he emerged out of the sort of hilariously, ironically named India Against Corruption movement. So this guy has come out of nowhere. So it's difficult to expect him to have any kind of success. The only way he could have success if there's strong anti-incumbency and it's a protest vote and people don't want to vote for anybody who's been there before, they want to vote for somebody new. All the evidence suggests that they might be wary of Nitish, but there isn't a lot of anti-incumbency.
Chetan Bhagat, when I spoke to Prashant Kishor in Patna and in Muzaffarpur, his big hope was that youths and migrants will form a vote bank cutting beyond caste. If this exit poll data holds true on the 14th, it's quite clear that that hasn't happened.
Well, even it's 5%, 10%, he's there to stay. I mean, that's...
We don't know that.
And if MGP...
we don't know that. Lasting it
Tejasvi
out
has
in a
not
state
worked-
like Bihar, A, is expensive and B, it's very tough.
I agree, but looks like Lalu's family is not as... If this results hold, that means Lalu's family is not as popular as what it takes to be the winner, and Bihar needs their local alternative. He could be the next guy. I know it's a very different example, but in Pakistan, Imran Khan had 1% vote share in his first election, and 1%.
Do you want close cricket matches you're comparing to Pakistan?
just discussing
What are you
data.
doing on TV?
He's saying that the polls are looking very unidirectional. I want to spice
I'm just
this
having
discussion
fun
up.
with
I'm just saying
Now
it was
you must make
1%
it-
and he
if
came.
these are correct,
So,
this is the analysis.
Of course.
No,
Yeah, right. You're right.
Because
It's a
the day
caveat.
after tomorrow,
5-10, it's not a joke. 5-10% vote share is not a joke.
state like
How much was Congress's vote share in UP? You know, just check.
No,
it
but
was
the Congress
5%.
fought with the
Yeah,
Congress
so-
fought with the Samajwadi Party. That's
I know,
very
I know.
different from the
But
Congress
he also
fighting
has
alone.
no-
I have one more poll that's just come out. This is JVC. As I said, Amitabh Tiwari, Yashwant Deshmukh and Pradeep Gupta, and Pradeep will be joining us in just a moment. They've held their post-poll results back till tomorrow. So this is JVC. We'll show you what JVC is saying as well. 3 polls so far suggesting a very clear lead for the National Democratic Alliance of Nemo, Narendra Modi and Nitish Kumar. JVC also projects 135 to 150 for the NDA. Gathbandhan 88 to 133. This is slightly more conservative than some of the polls that we've seen, but the direction again very clear. It starts at 135 when compared to 122 being the majority figure. So the 4th poll that we're seeing this evening, once again suggesting a comfortable lead for the National Democratic Alliance. It also is the magic of Nitish Kumar. The fact that there should be some level, Veer Sangvi, of anti-incumbency against him, but despite being in power for 2 decades, people think he hasn't done us wrong and they still seem to think one last election for Nitish Chacha, and that's what these numbers at least are suggesting.
I think there is an element of magic because if you look at the figures, economic development, unemployment, etc., Bihar lags behind the rest of India per capita income. Nitish has been in charge for so long. Obviously, people should blame him. The interesting thing is they don't. They're wary of him. There's a certain degree of exhaustion, but there's no blaming. There's no anti-incumbency. It defies logic, but there it is.
Prabhu Chawla, what do you make of it? The fact that, there are issues with his mental and physical capacity. In other countries, this may have been a knockout blow. Here, it creates sympathy rather than being something you want to pin down on that politician.
Well, I want to first clear it because rider is that if this poll turns out to be correct.
Oh, of course,
I'm just supporting the poll.
Commentary is based on what you see on the screen. What you see on the screen changes, the commentary changes as well. So many polls
have come in this India because almost more than a dozen. Everybody does do it. Anti-incumbency, if you go empirical data, it very clearly proves if there is an anti-incumbency vote, if a higher turnout, in 65% cases the state government has lost. Except in Bihar, which is a higher turnout, where 60% chances of becoming the ruling party coming back. Bihar is exception, yes, that's true. But 60% because the Gathbandhan have been changing, where alliances. Therefore, when there is a higher turnout, this is going to be against the government. That is a general conception. From say 1952.
No, but there is enough empirical evidence in the country as well.
If you look at Haryana, Haryana had higher turnout.
That can be part of 35%. Na? There are 35% repetition. I am talking about 65% against. Haryana can be part of that. Anyway, let us not go into it. But you are absolutely right. People are voting. Maybe a sympathy vote for him. They are going to vote for him because they are.
It's the poorest
let me complete. Ultimately, the thing. MY factor. For example, there is a total consolidation of all other castes, if that is correct, against MY. Nobody else has voted for MY other than the Muslims and Yadav. That is what comes out of it. Such a massive turnout and such a massive mandate for Nitish Kumar means that Lalu Yadav has lost the support of every other caste.
Chetan Bhagat, it's a very uniquely Asian or Indian phenomena. In Europe and in the United States, we've seen if the physical health and the mental capacity of a leader is seen as deteriorating, it can be a knockout blow. Here, they look up to an elder with respect, and it actually became on the ground as we traveled.
Here they get married without checking with their parents. Here, without parents, you can't get married. So we are very different people. I think badon ka aadar karna, respect karna, it's a big thing here. And it's the poorest state in India, lowest per capita income. It's the poorest state in India, and still people are happy with the government.
Because people compare with 1990 to 2005 and not
really. There are a lot
with
of young people
Bihar versus others.
There are a lot of young people as well, and you were traveling together in Bihar who haven't seen what happened during the Lalu era.
See, what happens is that the young voting population is lower, young population is higher, but 0 to 18 do not vote. So 18 to 29, only 25% voting population. So above 30 who have seen or have memory of Jungle Raj is 75% of voting population.
I want to go across to Ankit Tyagi. He's been crisscrossing the state of Bihar over the past several weeks, tracking the sentiment of voters on the ground. Ankit, is this the sentiment you picked up during your travels as well? All the three polls that we've seen so far showing the NDA very comfortably placed.
You know, Rahul, I thought this election is more complex and more close than that. It's a non-linear election. It's not that something that you hear across the election. There is no one pan-Bihar, campaign which is working. One thing is clear that there was no electric sort of a current either to throw out Nitish Kumar. It was more anti-incumbency in 2020. And it was also not like a current to bring Tejaswi Yadav. I thought this election was more seat by seat. People were talking more about their local MLA. Then they were talking about who should be the chief minister, at least at the places that I went to. But one thing is very, very clear that all those who were thinking that Nitish Kumar and also the BJP, that Nitish Kumar could be a baggage, he actually is a big plus as far as this Gathbandhan is concerned. And it comes from, you talk to people, they don't want to give him a bad send-off. People keep saying that, he has done so much for Bihar. We don't want to give him a bad send-off. They do realize that it is the last inning that he is playing. And also, it's remarkable that in 20 years, even if we have switched sides, there is no personal corruption charge on Nitish Kumar. He has not not done the religious polarization, Hindu-Muslim politics, and he has also been seen as somebody who has gotten Vikas, is not a dynast in that sense, his son. That is why, despite everybody talking about his son coming into politics, it's not that Nitish Kumar did that deliberately. People say it was not done deliberately because it would have signaled, A, Nitish Kumar is incapacitated, and the dynast charge would have come to him. So I feel this election would be closer than what most of these surveys are.
I want to go across to Pradeep Gupta. Pradeep Gupta, as our viewers know well, runs Access My India. A lot of people on exit poll day look out for Pradeep ji's numbers. Pradeep ji, आप तो हैं यहाँ, number कहाँ हैं?
बात का सर कल तक थोड़ा इंतजार कीजिए। एक्सेस माई इंडिया के नंबर के लिए थोड़ी सी और मेहनत कर लेते हैं, कोशिश करेंगे कि नतीजों के करीब आने की जितना ज्यादा हो सके।
You know, I spoke to you earlier during the week. You were in Bihar doing some polling yourself, and we've traveled together. You like to go out on the field to get a sense of, what the sentiment on the ground is. Without giving your numbers away, can you, on the basis of your travels and the interviews that you conducted with the different respondents that you spoke to, give our viewers a sense of what you picked up? What defines, or what do you think will define this election, Pradeep Gupta?
As I mentioned earlier, Rahul, and I witnessed the same thing on the ground, which is the caste is going to be major, going to play the major role in the fate of the outcome of the election of Bihar. So caste is clearly the clincher. Again, I would say the Dalits and the Malla. These 20% combination, about 20 to 20% combination, whoever get the edge will win the Bihar election. This is one thing for sure. The second thing is that this time, because in last 3 to 4 Bihar assembly elections, generally election took place during Dasera and Diwali, meaning before Diwali it concluded in all 3 elections in last 3 terms. But this time it is post Diwali, meaning Chhath Puja. When it comes to the Chhath Puja in Bihar, particularly youth or the migrated worker or whoever is migrated, they come back to Bihar for Chhath Puja, and this time they've been there, and you can witness this turning out to be in election total massive turnout, the historical turnout. Of course, about 6% is because of the SIR purification. 28 lakhs people have been deceased and about 28 lakhs has been permanently migrated. This 48 lakhs, if you convert into the real voter percentage, it is 6.25% when it comes to the electors. So now this, in most of the cases, the Bihar turnout has been in the 56 to 57 percentage points. This time it is exceeding 65, both the faces together exceeding 65. That 6 to 7% incremental out of purification, and that 3 to 4% added, which is going to again a deciding factor in this election as well. Now coming to the governance, which is the case always, whoever wins is purely wins on the governance, and particularly when the government gets repeat, if it is at all it is getting repeated, then it's a pure of the governance. No,
but there's a larger point here, Veer Sanghvi. In a state like Rajasthan, people like to turn the roti over every 5 years. In a state like Orissa and in a state like Bihar, they seem reasonably content. As I traveled through Simanchal and other places, with their modest means, they're okay. They're not angry and yearning for more for some reason.
Roti turns itself. Nitish turns.
But Orissa, eventually, people did get tired of Naveen Patnaik. That doesn't seem to happen in Bihar. I mean, I'll give you 2 parallels. One is Nitish and Narendra Modi. Nitish has been chief minister, longer than Narendra Modi has been prime minister. Narendra Modi is an exceptionally popular leader, but he constantly feels the need to deliver, keeps saying, I've done this, I've done that, India's grown under me. Look at Biden, the other parallel, who I think from most accounts is probably in better shape mentally and physically than Nitish Kumar. Yet they got rid of it because they said he was too old, he'd been around too long, they wanted a fresh face. In Bihar, that doesn't seem to matter. Nobody gets tired of Nitish, even if there is a huge turnout as there is.
No, but let's spend some time with Pradeep Gupta on the issue that we raises about the huge turnout. Veer Sangvi made the point that turnout has skyrocketed. You said the same thing, Pradeep. What do you attribute it to? Is it because of this extra mobilization that we're seeing? One theory is people are scared that their names will be struck off next time if they don't vote this time. Second is Chhat, migrants coming, staying back. Third is Prashant Kishor mobilizing. What do you attribute the highest ever turnout that Bihar has seen since independence to?
One is the purification, and two is the festival time, and three is these, both the Gathbandhan and all the political parties had made sure this time they made sure at local level, whoever is come is been well taken care of this time, well taken care. Believe me or not, they have made sure their reservation, their full paid journey through and fro, and they are looking after hospitality. So this is what this time makes all the difference.
Surge in voter turnout. The other issue to look at, and we'll have data from Pradeep Gupta, Yashwant Deshmukh, Amitabh Tiwari tomorrow. But till then, from the data sets that I have, I did a quick cross tab of the gender vote. Okay, so I'll take the People's Pulse data first. Now look at this. And ladies and gentlemen, this is phenomenal. This is nothing less than remarkable. 45.8% men voted for the NDA. Amongst women, 66.8% said they voted NDA. That's a 20% gap in favor of the NDA amongst women versus men. That is just phenomenal in terms of the ability to make it happen. You're seeing this for the first time on NDTV. Look now at the second row. This is the Gathbandhan. Here, 38.2% of the men said they voted for the Gathbandhan, the India Alliance, and 24.8% said they voted for the Gathbandhan amongst the women. That's a 14% deficit. If you just look at the men, the gap is only about 7%, 38 versus 45. It's an election very clearly in favor of the NDA, but the gap is only 7%. If you look amongst women, the gap is 22%. That is remarkable, Shubhrashtra. 22% gap amongst the women in favor of the NDA. That's the election right there. We didn't need to go jump into a Makhana pond and do everything else that we did. Just speak to the women and say that Nitish is winning.
Rahul, I have a very, perhaps a different take on it as a woman myself. You know, we want to believe that, parties have become so gender sensitive that they're trying to woo women voters. It's not the case. In Bihar, and we have all discussed it ad nauseum, caste networks and trust factor works so much. Caste is really hard-coded into the DNA of Bihar like any other state. And Bihar will not trust any ideas experiment even in case of gender.
No, but this is beyond caste. No, I'm sorry. 45% you can say is caste because men are there. Between 45 and 66, that 11% extra is beyond caste.
But
21.
Rahul, are we then to believe that the Muslim women who are standing in burqas are going to vote for BJP just because?
Or it could be some of the RJD Congress supporters. It's very clearly the data.
I'm not discounting the power of women voters. What I'm saying is, let's understand that every voter is a cross section of many identities. We will never be able to decode it in front of, numerically in front of all the exit polls that are coming in. But it is important to understand that this whole gender narrative, which is being built around Nitish Kumar, also has its own limitations. Women are being wooed because the other equations with EBC and OBCs, etc., are also not that regimented. If Nitish ji was completely okay with Kurmi Koiris voting for him, some Yadavs voting for him, and EBC, as he remarked famously in maybe a decade back, that he's going to he used the term Hindi and say कि वो हम साथ लेंगे EBCs को. If all of these were okay, why would he go out and woo women voters?
Okay, so let me put that question to Pradeep Gupta. Pradeep, 22% gap, is this typical? I know your data is not out yet, but when you spoke to women, is this what you picked up as well? Almost 7 out of 10 women in this poll are saying that they voted for the NDA. That's remarkable.
Rahul, though I should not be commenting on, all these polls, they are all friends, they do a good job. But looking at this number, 45, meaning 46 you take to NDA among men and women about 66, the net vote share for the NDA comes to 56%, and for the Mahagathbandhan it is coming to 31%. Now I'll tell you, during Lok Sabha election in 19, NDA won 39 seats out of 40 seats. The assembly segment, it should have been turned into 223 seats. 223 seats, whereas people's poll showing some, they take their higher range also, I don't know, I can't see, but it is exceeding to 150 or 155, something like that. I mean, this is not possible, let me tell you. I don't want to comment on these figures for sure.
Rahul, the aggregate vote shares they have given was 45%. The aggregate they had given was 45 and 38. But
no, so then he
if you take
factors
an
it
average
down.
of the men and women, assuming same gender, 1:1 ratio.
No, women vote in larger numbers.
Still, it cannot justify. It sounds like a 55% vote share for NDA if you just average out the men and women. And that's somewhere.
But you don't know how many women voted.
Question.
I mean, it can't be.
No, anyway, so that's fine.
Rahul, one question
Pradeep
which
Gupta
has-
is making a fair
Rahul,
point,
one
and I
question.
think we'll wait for his data to come out. But for what it is worth, this is People's Pulse. I'll just show matrice as well, the same data set for women, and then Prabhu Chawla will comment on that. This is matrice, the breakup of gender votes, men versus women, NDA versus MGB for women. Here as well, the Gathbandhan is shown at 36 and 27. So the same point that Pradeep makes. NDA is shown at 52 and 65. 65% of the women, according to the matrice poll, voted for the NDA. Only 27% of the women voted for the Gathbandhan. That is almost 30% gap. That again is phenomenal. A very, very big leap.
Rahul?
Prabhu? Yes, Prabhu.
Seems too big.
Yes, sure.
Ask one question because I'm not. 65% of women have voted for NDA of the total women elected. I would like to know the total percentage of votes are there, how many women are there. If 65% have voted of the total mass of women voters, it means about 75% women voters have voted for NDA. Are you believing that? Just work out the absolute terms. The total number of votes are 6 crore or 6.5 crores. Out of that,
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, and
they're
I
saying.
want to add
3
to
out
that,
of
and I
4
just
women.
want to- and I
They're
just
saying
want to
3
add to
out
that.
of 4 women are voted for NDA.
how can you
Yes.
believe
Or 6 out of 10.
And how many are
That's what the data is saying.
How many are Muslim? How many are
Which
Yadav
then comes-
women?
Which then comes that if the 36% for the MGB,
I just can't believe
in the men are roughly
3 out of 4
Muslims and
women are voted
Yadavs,
for
and
NDA.
that
So the
drops-
liquor
and that
thing-
drops to
No,
160.
no,
That drops to
they're
27.
Yadav women, they're
Yeah,
Muslim
so are
women.
the Yadav women voted for Nitish ji.
Yes.
Okay,
Are the
so
Muslim
let me,
women-
that's a very good point that Prabhu Chawla makes, and I want to put that to Pradeep Gupta
ask them
because
now, the people
it
who have done the
illustrates the
voting.
point that Pradeep was making as well, that there may be a skew, it may not be so much. Did you pick up a pro one-party sentiment amongst women when you traveled across Bihar, or do you think, as Shubhrashtra was arguing earlier, that the reality is far more complicated?
See, that's, believe it or not, Bihar votes, 90% of the voter base vote based on their caste alignment. Now coming to Bihar, 32% is MY, which is Muslim and Yadav put together. Among the Muslim and Yadavs, I don't see there is a deviation as far as the voting preference is concerned vis-a-vis their male member of not a single percent doubt. Now coming to the other than Muslim and Yadavs, I can tell you this much at least, NDA has slender age over their male member. This much I can, slender age. I cannot say that, I mean, this number, so anyway, you will see this, just mark my word for the voting day. The real voting percentage, if you can show, that would be better, how much they are projecting. You have shown the bifurcation, but show the share number. It's turning out to be 58%. And let me tell you one more thing, in Bihar, though women turnout has been higher among women itself, but in real number, the number of women voter is less than their male, few lakhs less than their male members. So in sheer number, it has never been the case. I will tell you, the last time, I have got the number, last time also, few lakhs lesser number of women has voted, meaning it is turning out, whatever 100 vote is there, it by and large 50% in that sense. little lesser for women there. So this number, I cannot believe this number, and I don't want to comment on these numbers.
Let us put out the number of women electors there. Yeah, it's a published.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
How many women electors are there on the voter list?
Extent is too much, but maybe like that liquor policy, which I think clearly.
No, but Pradeep is saying the margin is not so much. The gap in favor in his poll, and we'll see that tomorrow. The gap in favor of the NDA is not so much. He wants to answer Prabhu's question, so I'm going to let Pradeep do that.
I'll tell you. In 2025. 1 crore 94 lakhs. So 1.95 crore is male elector and female 1.73 crore. 1.7 meaning sheer 20 lakhs lesser number of female in Bihar.
How is this, Pradeep, election different or similar to what we've seen after the Lok Sabha elections? Haryana, Maharashtra, Jharkhand, the other states that we've seen after the Lok Sabha election of 2024, in what ways is Bihar similar and in what ways is it dissimilar?
See, Jharkhand is all, see, you'll have to see the majority representation of a particular demography. In case of Jharkhand, it is 1/3 the tribals. 1/3 is the tribal. They are going to be the decisive factor. In Haryana, Jats are the case. In Bihar, though MY has the 1/3, almost 1/3 of the population, but here the point here is that none of the leader from the other community other than MY, just the Malla community recently, then that too Mukesh Sahni has been switching the side, and that too belonging of about 4% in the fold of Mahagathbandhan. Somehow in last 2 to 3 elections, of course 2015 was a different case altogether because Nitish Kumar was this side. None of the leader in the fold of Mahagathbandhan. सबसे बड़ी समस्या जो है महागठबंधन के साथ वो ये है. तो this is the reason why this is different than.
अच्छा ठीक है. You are saying you don't want to comment on other people's poll. ये बताओ जाने से पहले कि आपका poll कितने बजे आएगा कल?
5:30 onwards we will start releasing our.
Okay, so we look forward to seeing you at 5:30 p.m. then tomorrow. Thank you very much, Pradeep Gupta, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing what your assessment, which comes one day after the second phase of polling, is actually going to look like. Thank you very much for joining us in NDTV.
Thank you, Rahul.
Rajan Pandey now joins us. He's with People's Pulse. I'll show you the People's Pulse data. It's on your screen right now. 133 to 159 for the NDA. Gathbandhan at 75 to 101. The Jan Swaraj party of Prashant Kishor between 0 and 5. This is People's Pulse. Pollster Rajan Pandey now joins our poll team. Mr. Pandey, welcome. Can you explain to those watching on NDTV what you picked up during your poll on the ground, and how have you come to this assessment that the NDA seems comfortably placed to form the government once again in Bihar?
See, for the first, I would like to say that this election is very different from the past elections that happened in, I should say, last 20 years. Now, if we compare it in terms of various indicators, let's say issues. So 2005 was a vote for change. Nitish Kumar was coming resurgent. 2010 was the vote for continuity of that change. And then 2015 was a very different election. It was an election when a resurgent BJP, which had triumphed nationally on the political landscape, was vis-a-vis Lalu Prasad and Nitish Kumar, who had been political force since a very long time. And then 2020, again, there was a lot of talk of jobs, lot of talk of employment, performance of Tejaswi Yadav, a new RJD, a new Lalten, and all those things. Suddenly, this time what we are seeing is a repetition of a lot of old things. For example, the primary campaign, the Jungle Raj campaign, is actually something which is almost 20 years old. And the jobs things, because in 2020 it was quite new, but in last 5 years there have been recruitments and other things. So this time I witnessed that the traction that Tejaswi Yadav had among the youth in 2020 election is not there. The kind of
what does this also say, Veer, about the likes of a Tejaswi Yadav? Yeah. You know, it really seemed that 2020 was his big opportunity which slipped out of his hand, and here, instead of his profile growing over the last 5 years, it seems to have diminished.
Yeah, all logic suggests that he should have done better this time. There are fewer memories of Lalu, of Jungle Raj. He's had time to build up things. Young people have joined the electorate. They should vote for him. The failure is actually quite astonishing if these figures hold, etc., etc.
Chetan Bhagat, from the opposition's perspective.
Because people had Prashant Kishor also competing for that same position, younger, fresher, newer alternative. There has to be some...
Did Prashant Kishor, you think, Shubrashtra, make someone like Tejasvi feel inferior? Because for the young aspirational voter, that's the kind of aspiration they have. Young, educated, travelled, successful professional, rather than someone who's a dynast.
So, of course, there's a difference between a first-time businessman or a politician and somebody who inherits it. Of course, the hunger that Prashant would have is a hunger that will be missing in most of the second-generation politicians. More than that, I think one of the mistakes that, or perhaps the problems that Tejasvi faced was internal home dynamics. It is very difficult for a younger son to sort of claim the throne when you have a, elder brother being
thrown out. So what's the problem?
But he's an irritant. He's an irritant.
But you can't blame Tej Pratap for where Tejasvi is at. I want to ask Rajan Pandey.
Add something.
One second, Mr. Pandey, tell us what does your poll show about the performance of Prashant Kishor beyond just the headline numbers? What does it show on the ground about the kind of people, the kind of voters who voted for PK?
See, PK, we should look not. If we are evaluating PK, we should not evaluate PK on the basis of the vote percentage of the seats that he's getting at the end of everything. We should also see the trajectory of the whole thing. The Jan Suraj has been doing a lot of things. And in terms of, now this is also very remarkable, in terms of the expenses that Jan Suraj made, it should come into top 3. I mean, so much money they have spent. They have a very well-oiled organizational infrastructure, and there are branded cars, posters, rallies, everything with a very professional edge. But the momentum, and in fact, if you look at the issues, it's the PK's issues who are the most hit in Bihar. He is a guy who actually popularized this conception of some of the leaders who have criminal cases. He's the guy who has brought back the issue of employment and migration and things like that. And then when the iron is hot and you should hit it, at that very point of time, we see PK somewhere, just not giving his 100%. So that's quite surprising to me, because in Mokama...
You're suggesting that dal mein kuch kala hai. Do you think, Chetan, it will appear like that he built it up in a certain fashion, raised it to a tempo which seemed to be building to a crescendo, and then just kind of...
Well, there's all these conspiracy theories. Internet has nothing to do. So there's this B team, BJP theories going on. It may look like that, but I don't think so. I think he definitely wants to make a change in Bihar and wants to come up with this alternative. RJD will get some votes from its base, right? Muslim Yadav will vote for that. How much is the Tejasvi vote? And can Prashant Kishor, I think it's not 10%, but Prashant Kishor seems to be pulling 8 to 10%, and just pure Tejasvi vote is not there.
Ashok Malik, I think Chetan makes Chetan makes an important point, that what is the incremental vote? If he hopes to be Chief Minister at some point in time, Tejasvi Yadav needs to land the Tejasvi bump to the Gathbandhan ticket.
There are two challenges before Tejasvi. One, if these numbers are correct, it's fairly clear that like in the previous elections, he's maximized the Muslim Yadav vote, which is a core vote which more or less stays with the RJD, but there's an inability to grow beyond it. The second factor one needs to consider is that, again, if these numbers are correct, he is taking on Nitish at Nitish's, if not his peak, he's still very popular. Do remember that there was a whole series of very talented politicians in Gujarat, for instance. Bharat Singh Solanki was a very good politician in Gujarat. In normal times, he would have become Chief Minister. He just happened to coincide with the Modi 1.5 decades. So sometimes it just becomes difficult to take on a larger-than-life Chief Minister who is riding a crest for over a decade.
Okay,
now,
yes.
In my opinion, as somebody who's seen Tejasvi closely, I think Lalu Prasad Yadav ji is Tejasvi's both greatest strength and his worst weakness. Why I say this, and I say this with responsibility, is the 35-36% he's getting is essentially Laluji's vote. But the ability to transcend that 35-36% is also due to Laluji, because none of the other castes want to come because they are scared of that Yadav domination. So he has both the strength of Laluji and the weakness, and therefore he's not been able to create a Tejasvi vote bank. Therefore, as you rightly said, becoming the chief minister. In Prashant Kishor's case, I see it a little differently. A lot of comparisons are made with Arvind Kejriwal. I actually compare it with two very different people, Kashi Ram and Bal Thackeray. The reason is both Kashi Ram and Bal Thackeray were born not out of movements, but started their own political parties. They didn't come in when there was a movement against something. NTR, Arvind Kejriwal all came when there was a movement, even the AGP in Assam. It is actually Prashant Kishor who started an organization, a political organization, where he believes there's a vacuum like Bal Thackeray or Kashi Ram believe. And I do believe if he stays the course, if, that's a big if, he will have a future in Bihar.
No, but he's also Kanchan Gupta up against the BJP. Can he last it out for 5 years?
Bal Thackeray emerged from a movement.
Of course he did.
From an agitation, from
Very much.
the fact. I mean, to say that
I never forgot my fact. One second. The anti, when there was the anti.
Let Kanchan Das speak. You made a point. Let Kanchan Das.
Congress was leading it.
Let Kanchan.
No, anyway, forget it. I mean, the point is two things over here. You're saying that people in Orissa, Bihar, they really don't particularly look for change and they're quite happy with things. You have to understand the political culture of every state across the country is not the same. Bihar, West Bengal, Orissa, even Assam, till BJP went and sort of shook up things over there, they are quite happy with the status quo. They don't want surprises. Let me put it this way. Number two, in Bihar's case, caste is ironclad. I mean, you cannot smash through it beyond a point. To say that this transcends caste and that, no, it doesn't. And lastly, I think somebody here, I think Amitabh made the point that people still have memories of Lalu's years. And that the segment which is new and fresh on the block, they are not the determining vote. It's the in-between age group which is the determining.
But that's the point Subhrashtra made earlier as well. And Pradeep Gupta made that point that the bulk of voters, he's saying almost 8 out of 10, vote purely on the basis of their caste. I mean, that's the primary factor for them.
Sorry.
Because I'll again bring the same points. Those who are thinking this Prashant Kishor is going very well, they are assuming that Bihar is coming out of the caste board. That's what the assumption is. And he is Pandey, he forgets that. If he's Pandey, as far as Pandey is leading a party, he can't make any inroads in that system. But somehow we are trying to justify what we feel is happening in the state. But that is not what is happening, because you are going to, and number two, you are undermining Tejasvi, because that party for the last 30 years still remains the number one party in terms of number of seats. Its votes have not gone down. It has gone down because of combination.
But this poll is, all these three polls are saying they've gone down.
No, all these three polls are 1%, 2% maximum. And total, because the data is somehow, I suspect the data, because number of women they may have projected, then the whole data has to be looked into. I don't want to comment on that, because day after tomorrow when we speak of the actual result, we have to speak differently. The results are different. So I don't want to comment on that. But we must keep in this mind that whatever we are showing, assume it is correct. It reflects too many things, because Bengal, they are voting for the government after 20 years. That is one bigger surprise in the entire electoral. If you go empirical study, this is surprise, the exception which is happening here. And you are voting on for a person who doesn't seem to be fully control of the state. And number two, if this is right, there is another mark which is coming. Who is the number one party? Because whether BJP becomes lower than JDU, that is what it looks like in the poll.
Subhrashtra.
There have been a lot of missed opportunities for Tejasvi. If he really wanted to incrementally vote RJD share, he actually said it in one of his local sabhas that don't judge me by what my father did. If he would have made it a state narrative and ensured that he was there with the students, for instance, when they were protesting, if he was there with during the university elections, he could have worn those fantastic different shaded t-shirts and gone there. But the point is, Rahul, that all these leaders, also his family dynamics, when we talk about his family dynamics, there's a lot of chatter between the Yadav youth population also with respect to the whole Halloween.
So let me put that question to Pradeep Gupta about Prashant Kishor versus Tejasvi. Do you think, what did you make while you were traveling, Pradeep, about the Prashant Kishor factor and the kind of impact you saw on the ground? And how did he compare as an opposition face versus the likes of Tejasvi Yadav?
the people wants to contribute in a winning cause, and they can clearly see this time that Prashant Kishor is unlikely to form the government. So they have shifted to Tejasvi Prasad Yadav in bulk among the youth, which was supposed to be, Prashant Kishor's demography in that sense. So Tejasvi Yadav is a clear-cut winner.
Then what did you make of Tejasvi's campaign? And why do you think he hasn't been able to, from what we can see on the surface, able to emerge as a more potent opponent than what he was able to in the past few months?
So it's not about Tejasvi, as I mentioned earlier. It's all about the caste arithmetic at play in Bihar. Because beyond MY, you have to have somebody, sizable in terms of numbers to win the Bihar. I mean,
so did the VIP plan trying to get the Mallas on board with the Muslim Yadav, did that work?
That to 4%, Rahul. That to 4%. And secondly, the decision making as a Gadbandhan as a whole, वहाँ मैच चालू हो गया, आपकी टीम भी डिसाइड नहीं हुई कि कौन प्लेयर खेलने वाला है. How? I mean, आप पब्लिक को कम्युनिकेट होने में भाई समय लगता है कि इस सीट के ऊपर कौन है. आप 12 फ्रेंडली फाइट पे लड़ रहे हैं, ऊपर से जो उनके भाई है तेज प्रताप, वो एक अलग अपनी पार्टी, छोटी पार्टी बना के कर रहे हैं. तो ये सारी चीजें बजाय वोटों के जुड़ने का, ये सारी चीजें जो है फ्रेंडली फाइट वो कहते हैं, मैं तो उसको सोसाइटल फाइट कहता हूँ. वो किस हिसाब से फ्रेंडली फाइट बोलते हैं मुझे आज तक समझ में नहीं आया. वोटर के सामने तो मशीन दिख रही है और मशीन में 2 सिंबल दिख रहे हैं, उसमें से उसको एक सिलेक्ट करना है.
That's a good point you make. Sangli calls it a suicidal fact. Given that they're in opposition and they have everything to win and nothing to lose, why can't they sort out something as basic and important as seat sharing well before polling day?
I think that's a pretty constant malaise with India's opposition. They go in there fighting with each other, and by the time it comes to fight the election, they've already fought themselves out. So yes, I think he's absolutely right. It was suicidal. But another point, which I think is worth making, is when you're talking about Tejasvi, is that he offered nothing new. He offered the same things, jobs, etc., help for the migrants that people have always offered.
What else could he have offered?
That's my point. That when we talk about Bal Thackeray, for instance, he offered Maharashtrian pride. Whenever Arvind Kejriwal offered an anti-corruption slogan, whenever anybody beats somebody, they have to say, we will do something better. Prashant Kishor tried. I don't think he had the credibility or the base yet to make something of it. But Bihar on the whole...
Can PK last for 5 years, you think?
That's up to him. It's a tough thing, to continue doing this for 5 years, having done so badly, if these are right.
Yes.
I think all these years, media has pumped up Prashant Kishor into this great election winner. He wins elections for others. Now that convinced him into believing that he can go ahead and win an election for himself. Well, it doesn't work like that. A backroom strategist, if he could go and win an election, then a lot of us over here would be sitting in parliament.
What's your seat, Kanchanda?
So we would have been sitting.
What's your most logical seat?
I mean, listen. So we would
all of us are Khan Market candidates. All of us are Khan Market candidates.
Khan Market MPs. MPs of Khan
Market. May I just add one 10 seconds.
गलत फहमी है कि आपने ममता बनर्जी को चुनाव जितवा दिया.
Kanchanda is still not telling us which seat he fancies. एक तो होगी कहीं पे.
Rahul, for all
you're making light of the matter, but it's a serious thing.
So INA market.
But
so strategists or campaigners or campaign planners, they are very good at their job. They are important.
No, but can I counter argue to say that Kanchiram said, "पहला चुनाव हारने के लिए, दूसरा हराने के लिए, तीसरा जीतने के लिए." Would we be judging this too soon?
वो सब बोलने के लिए where is Baspa today?
Let me say, Kashiram had a caste backing. That's a different issue. And I am saying Prashant Kumar, because media, as you rightly pointed out, media built it up. Because media is always looking for a person who is not true anti-establishment, but they want some person who seems to be anti-establishment. Let us promote him also. His voice also.
But sir, you know this well. You need a juicy story.
Rahul, listen. Rahul, can I
just
just
comment?
points here?
So, one small comment, Tehseen.
Sure.
My problem is that migration was a big issue. Every opposition leader was talking about migration as this anathema and it shouldn't happen from Bihar. But when the migrant workers were actually coming to vote in Bihar, did you see any opposition leader sitting with kiosks and wooing them and telling them to go vote for Mahagathbandhan? It was only the BJP, not even JDU. It was only the BJP which was, holding fort at railway stations.
I have some data from the Matrice poll, and I will show this to our viewers to give a sense of how one of the polls is saying the caste matrix of Bihar rolled in this election. So let's take a look at that data right now, which will give you a sense of how the different communities voted. Now this is Matri's vote share. They're saying that amongst the general upper caste, 69% of the voters voted for the NDA, only 15% for the Gathbandhan. Amongst the OBCs, which is where the Yadavs are also placed in this classification, 51% voted for the NDA, 39% for the Gathbandhan. Amongst the Dalits, 49%, and this is really what the poll came down to. The fact that this vote is getting split, Tejaswi and the Gathbandhan were hoping to pull this towards the MGB. That hasn't happened. Amongst Muslims, quite predictably, massive consolidation, 78% voting for the Gathbandhan. Rajan Pandey, what does your caste matrix look at? Is it very similar to what we are seeing over here? And do you think that Dalits vote getting split in favor of the NDA is one of the reasons why the NDA seems so comfortably placed? You're on mute right now. Give us your caste matrix. Yes.
Yes, in terms of the caste matrix, we shared the data with you. See, the thing is that in Bihar, as everybody else has pointed out, the thing is that everything boils down to caste, is what everybody has been saying. And if you just add the caste supporting particular alliances and the parties which are parts of those alliances, then NDA already has a clear edge. So I don't see why there is so much conflict about the idea that NDA is going to, win this election. Because if we just add up the caste supporting various castes and communities supporting various parties of the NDA, their social matrix is far more, far stronger, far bigger than the social matrix of the Mahagathbandhan.
Amit Shah thought in 2015, Ashok Malik, that he could change that, challenge that the BJP is strong enough to win alone, as he discovered when the BJP won just more than 50, that's not the case. Rajan Pandey says, you just look at the caste lineup at the starting point and you know how this election finishes. Is that what Bihar will always be about?
No, not just Bihar. I mean, if you look at UP last year, that was also a very clever class coalition building by the Samajwadi Party and the Congress together, which did eventually.
Why do you think Gathbandhan couldn't do it in Bihar?
Well, if you look at UP last year, just comparing UP last year to Gathbandhan this year, if these indeed are the results, the Muslim Yadav candidates were not at the forefront of the Samajwadi Party. They put together a vast sort of rainbow of candidates from different communities. I don't think the Mahagathbandhan or RJD did that.
That's a very basic and obvious thing to do. Rajan Pandey, why do you think they didn't do it? Especially because Akhilesh Yadav successfully laid out a template and a playbook in the Lok Sabha elections. Why did Tejaswi not follow it? So many Yadav candidates being given tickets versus, as Ashok pointing out, so many of the big faces of the SP are actually non-Yadavs, non-Muslims in 2024.
That's what surprises me also, because that was something which was tried and tested in Uttar Pradesh with success from one of the alliance partners of the India alliance, and that same formula could have been replicated. But there are two things for which I think Tejaswi could not do it. Number one, Tejaswi Yadav does not control the Yadav votes of Bihar like Akhilesh Yadav controls it in UP. So Akhilesh Yadav could say to Yadavs, okay, we are not going to give tickets to these many other, more than these numbers, and still the Yadavs will vote for Samajwadi Party. That could not happen in Bihar. In fact, in Bihar, if you look at Mithila and Simanchal regions, you will find that Yadavs, whenever there is a candidate, a Muslim candidate or non-Yadav candidate from the Mahagathbandhan alliance partners, they actually vote in BJP. And this, in fact, in case of JDU also, JDU has shown that it could get Yadav votes with ease. One of the biggest strongmen of Kosi Simanchal region from the JDU side is Vijender Yadav, who has been there since last 30 years. So the type of control that Akhilesh Yadav commands in terms of the Yadav votes is not there. And secondly, we were talking about leadership of Tejaswi and his problems. If you talk to the RJD cadres in Bihar, you'll find that his biggest problem is his consultant Sanjay Yadav, his advisor Sanjay Yadav. I mean, I was surprised to see the sheer scale of RJD cadres who hate Sanjay Yadav. And to such an extent that actually there was a family feud between Misa Bharti and one of the sisters and Sanjay Yadav and Tejaswi Yadav and all.
No, so there is this entire family dynamic, Veer Sanghvi. The other is, there is a template that Akhilesh laid out last year. He showed you how to win, or at least compete and give them a bloody nose, and yet he didn't follow that. Forget whether it worked for him or not, he couldn't even follow it.
Yeah, I actually find his whole campaign to be a bit of a mystery, because he didn't do anything significantly different. He didn't appear to stand for anything. He attacked Modi, he attacked the Chief Minister, he attacked Nitish, but so what? He needed to have some issue that could get him elected. He needed to have a strategy that could change the way in which people voted. He did nothing. It was just more of the same. And when you have more of the same, because Nitish did more of the same, and he did more of the same, it is, as Shabrasta says, people go back to identity, to caste, and there they were at a disadvantage.
It also shows, Chetan, how the opposition in India seems locked in a Chakravyuh where they can't find a way out.
They need a story, and they can't seem to get that one story which is against the NDA, that all over the country it seems to be an issue. Bihar people thought they might have a chance because the Muslim population is much higher. There's a lot of reasons why Bihar they could have won. And if you see the opinion polls 6 months back, they were neck and neck. I mean, it was supposed to be a nail biter. And even the last elections, the vote shares are now very, very close. If you remember the data, this time there seems to be much more. So, opposition has tried. To be fair, they all have been, like Bihar has been very important. They have been trying. They did try to do the candidate selection. But yeah, they don't have that story.
The opposition is stuck in this Chakravyuh which they can't seem to get out of.
I tend to agree with Chetan, and to the starting point, I think sometimes, and I say this because I want the opposition to win, we are stuck in an echo chamber. We are, as I said earlier, the inability of Tejaswi Yadav to break through that 35%. We are stuck in every universe in those who are cheering us, not wanting to see the extra fence sitters that we want to get onto our side. So we start believing the narrative that we create. For example, let me say that the vote chori issue was okay till the extent to get your cadre mobilized in the beginning of the election. It shouldn't have carried on. Now, elections, and Prabhu sir, you will agree with me, is a lot like momentum. You had a momentum going in the beginning of before BR even, the BJP even started a campaign. That was suddenly broken. Suddenly you didn't know what was happening. You had two different things, and nobody took Tejaswi seriously when he said, I can give you 3 crore jobs. So everything should have been
and with the vote Adhikar Yatra, you kind of build it further as you come close to polling. You don't take it to a climax and then go off on a leave.
Exactly what PK did. So the whole thing should have then translated into vote Adhikar, should have become Bihar Adhikar, and come back and we will give you your Adhikar. We didn't do.
But anyway, that's for the losing side in these exit polls. The victors though, what's the sense in that cap? Dhananjay Giri joins us, spokesperson of the BJP. Dhananjay ji, the NDA and the BJP would be quite pleased with the numbers in the way they stand right now?
Nikhil Anand here.
Boliye.
Rahul, Dhananjay Giri is not joining you. I am Nikhil Anand.
Boliye sir.
Yeah. See, this election is very interesting in the sense that there was no other credible face. And Tejaswi failed to create a kind of conviction among the masses. And here we took the lead. NDA was a united force which started their campaign long back. In August, you remember, we held our collective district level NDA meeting in all the districts we held. Then we started with all assembly constituency had a NDA Sammelan. We completed this in September, October, half of the October. And here we took the lead. And Tejaswi failed to create a kind of rapport with Rahul Gandhi. Both were pulling the election apart. Vote chori was diffused, and Tejaswi Yadav came up with a very lucrative agenda, offered the Jivika sisters 30,000 rupees and permanent jobs, as well as other agenda by giving job to every household, a person of every household. But he failed to bring this agenda to the masses.
No, so now one of the subtext, of course, is
contradiction.
how important is it, Nikhilji, whether the BJP comes out number 1 or number 2? Do you think the actual thing to look at is BJP and JDU and who ends up first and who ends up second? Would you be tracking that very carefully? Could there be a plot after the data comes out on the 14th?
No, actually, there was a good compatibility and coherence. And we responded each other very well. In every constituency where even LJP contested, the JDU and BJP workers were managing the election. In my constituency, Maner, it was done. And I see that the kind of rapport we saw among the NDA cadres, that was not there in earlier elections.
Okay. Stay with me for a moment. I want to go across to Maithili Thakur. She's a well-known singer, politician, contested her first election. One of the young faces in this campaign. Maithili, welcome. How was this campaign for you? As someone straight out of the world of music, fighting an election, what was this experience like for you?
I think this was the best decision of my life. और जिस तरीके से लोगों के बीच रहकर मुझे ये 30 दिन में मैंने जो सीखा है, ये किसी भी किताब से, किसी भी अन्य सोर्स से मैं नहीं सीख सकती थी. और 1 महीने मेरे लिए पूरा लाइफ चेंजिंग रहा है.
तो क्या सीखा आपने? गाने गाना एक चीज़ है, लोगों के बीच में जाके वोट मांगना आप कह रहे हैं कि बहुत सीखा आपने. हमारे दर्शकों को बताएं एनडीटीवी पे कि क्या सीखा आपने?
राजनीतिक अनुभव मेरा शून्य था. 1 महीने में मैंने ये सीखा है कि कैसे किसी भी चीज़ से ऊपर जनता जनार्दन का सम्मान, स्नेह और प्यार है. और किस तरीके से आप लोगों के बीच में रह करके उनकी सारी समस्याओं को पहले सुने और अपने हिसाब से आप उनकी कैसे मदद कर सकते हैं. क्योंकि राजनीति एक ऐसा मंच आपको देता है, एक ऐसी ताकत भी आपको देता है जिससे आप लोगों की समस्याओं को समाधान बहुत ही एफिशिएंटली कर सकते हैं. तो ये सारी चीज़ें, एक पर्सनल मैनिफेस्टो बनाना अपने क्षेत्र के लिए, जो हमारी पार्टी ने दिया है वो तो है ही, उसको जन जन तक पहुंचाना, कैसे वो सारी चीज़ें लोगों तक, वो सारी सुख सुविधाएं पहुंचाएं, अपने हिसाब से आपको कहाँ कहाँ क्या क्या त्रुटियां नज़र आ रही हैं उसको ठीक करना. तो ये सब चीज़ों का एक संकलन बनाना कि आने वाले 5 साल में मुझे क्या क्या करना है. तो ये दूरदृष्टि मुझे राजनीति नहीं सिखाया है.
तो आप अलीनगर से लड़ रही थी, आपका अलायंस तो जीत रहा है, ऐसे एग्जिट पोल के डेटा बता रहे हैं. आपको विश्वास है कि आप भी जीत रही हैं, या आप में अभी जैसे एग्जाम से पहले छात्र की थोड़ी टेंशन होती है कि एग्जाम तो हो गया, पता नहीं पर्चा कैसा कटेगा?
मेरा 1 सेकंड भी ये मैं नहीं सोच रही हूँ कि क्या होगा मेरे साथ, मैं जीतूंगी या हारूंगी. क्योंकि मैं इतनी ज़्यादा खुश और सेटिस्फाइड हूँ अपने 30 दिन के जर्नी से कि मुझे पूरा विश्वास है. ऐसा नहीं तो मन में फीलिंग आती है कि नहीं, मैं 5 साल में अब यहीं पे लोगों के बीच में रह करके सेवा करने वाली हूँ. तो मैं उसके लिए मेंटली तैयार हूँ.
अच्छा, आप फोक सिंगर हैं, तो मैं चाहूँगा कि जाने से पहले आप ये बताएं कि इस समय जब वोटिंग ख़त्म हो चुकी है बिहार में, आपके जहन में, आपकी ज़ुबान पर, आपके दिमाग में क्या गाना आ रहा है?
मैं लोकगीत ही सुनाती हूँ एक, बिल्कुल वोटिंग और इस सब माहौल से हट करके, जो मैं सोच रही हूँ.
प्लीज़.
भगवती गीत सुनाती हूँ क्योंकि आज मैं बहुत सारे मंदिर भी दर्शन करने गई थी.
अच्छा, अगर आपके जहन में 2-3 गाने तो आपको 2-3 सुनाने होंगे. आप बोल रहे कि अलग अलग गाने आ रहे, तो पहले वाले से स्टार्ट करते हैं प्लीज. यस.
जगदम्बा घर में दियरा बार आईनी है, जग तारन घर में दियरा बार आईनी है, हम बार आईनी है दियरा, बार आईनी है, हम बार आईनी है दियरा, बार आईनी है, जगदम्बा घर में दियरा बार आईनी है, जग तारण घर में दियरा.
वेरी नाइस. आपको लगता है आपकी आवाज़ सुन के वोटर्स ने आपको वोट दिया, या आपके चुनावी वायदे सुन के?
अरे हमारे वोटर्स इतने ज़्यादा सजग कहूँ, क्या कहूँ, समझदार हैं कि उनको कोई भी जुमला उनके सामने में रखा जाए उससे प्रभावित ना होते हुए उनको मालूम है कि हमको कैसा बिहार चाहिए. मेरे
शुभराष्ट्रा है, शुभराष्ट्रा भी बिहार से आती है, उनके पास आपके लिए एक फरमाइश है. शुभराष्ट्रा जी
बताइए. मैथिली, आप प्लीज विद्यापति जी का भगवती गीत गा दीजिए.
जय जय भैरवी असुर भयाउनि पशुपति भामिनी माया सहज सुमति वर दियहि गोसाउनि अनुगत गति तू पाया जय जय भैरवी असुर भयाउनि.
Thank you.
Thank you. She's looking very calm, very relaxed. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll have you back on the 14th and we wish you all the best. It does teach you a lot, Prabhuji. Just fighting in 1 month, I can quite imagine what the young girl is saying. Teaches you more than any school and college you can go to.
Very confident. I admire her for that. But coming back to your basic agenda.
Yeah,
then.
so we'll slip into a break, and when we come back, we'll show you what the poll of polls say. We've shown you all the different polls. We'll bring it together, give you the big picture, try and hear from some of the voices out in the field and from our pundits in the studio. Our coverage of the exit poll continues on the other side of a quick break. Stay with us.
वॉल्यूम कम करेंगे? आपका पार्सल फिर से हमारे घर पे आया है.
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में.
माँ भी हमेशा पीमाक मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी. ये आपके लिए.
मैंने कहा था कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में. Pmark, the mustard specialist since 1933. सरसों से सरसों.
I don't sugarcoat. I shoot straight and tell you stories the way they need to be told. Unfiltered, unafraid, unmissable. That's how I roll. Watch me, Priyanka Deo, on NDTV World. Namaste.
In Bihar, bahut politics hai. The year's election super final. Can Jai Viru storm the palace? Or will Bihar double engine defend? Fierce fight, electric election. Biggest team, biggest coverage. Battleground Bihar on NDTV 24/7.
वॉल्यूम कम करेंगे? आपका पार्सल फिर से हमारे घर पे आया है.
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में.
माँ भी हमेशा पीमाक मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी. ये आपके लिए.
मैंने कहा था कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में. Pmark, the mustard specialist since 1933. सरसों से सरसों.
The front lines of
I don't sugarcoat. I shoot straight and tell you stories the way they need to be told. Unfiltered, unafraid, unmissable. That's how I roll. Watch me, Priyanka Deo, on NDTV World. Namaste.
Other opposition parties. They argue, I conclude. They deflect, I drill down. Stop. This isn't a free-for-all. It's a reckoning. No filler, no fog. Only the facts and where they lead. Every night at 9, the case closes because the buck stops here.
I don't sugarcoat. I shoot straight and tell you stories the way they need to be told. Unfiltered, unafraid, unmissable. That's how I roll. Watch me, Priyanka Deo, on NDTV World. Namaste.
What seems settled for me is unfinished business. So I rewind. I pause. I reflect. I dig until what's buried stands up to be counted. Breaking ground, not just headlines, the meaning behind them. This is Breaking Ground with me, Vedika Sood.
They argue, I conclude. They deflect, I drill down. This isn't a free-for-all. It's a reckoning. No filler, no fog. Only the facts and where they lead. Every night at 9, the case closes because the buck stops here.
Welcome back. You're watching NDTV Battleground, our continuing coverage of the post-poll studies that have been put out so far. I've got a fabulous panel of political pundits distilling these numbers for our viewers. What I'll do broadcast is give you a sense of where things stand at the moment by looking at all the post-poll studies that have been put out so far. I want to tell our viewers that Access My India, See Voter, and Poll Pulse have said that they will be putting out their data tomorrow. Till then, we'll show you the polls that have been this evening, all of them in unison predicting a victory for the NDA. It's a very clean, clear victory. Chanakya Strategy says the NDA will be between 130 and 138. Remember, 122 is the magic figure in an assembly of 243 MLAs in Bihar. Dainik Bhaskar predicts the NDA will be between 145 and 160. DV Research predicts the NDA will be 130 to 138. JVC says NDA between 135 and 150. The Mahagathbandhan, Chanakya Strategies shows the Gathbandhan touching a 3-digit figure. Dainik Bhaskar shows the Gathbandhan at 73 to 91. DV Research shows Gathbandhan at 83 to 98. And JVC shows the MGB between 88 and 103. The Jan Swaraj is seen as a bit of a cropper, not doing very well. Between 0 and 3 in the Dainik Bhaskar poll, 2 and 4 in the DV Research poll, just 0 and 1 in the JVC poll, and not even opening its account in the Chanakya Strategies poll. So it's quite clear, in unison, the polls on the first sheet are predicting that the NDA is winning. Let's take a look at the second set of numbers that have been put out. Matriz says 147 to 167 for the NDA. P Mark saying 142 to 162 for the NDA. People's Insight projecting 147 to 167 for the NDA. And People's Pulse saying 133 to 159 for the National Democratic Alliance. The Gathbandhan 70 to 90 in Matriz, 76 to 95 in the TIF research poll, 145 to 163. That's what the TIF research data suggests. I want to go across to Jay Mrig, who's just joined us. He's part of the NDTV team, leading cephalogist. Can this go wrong, or do you think there are enough polls and enough insights to suggest that the NDA seems comfortably placed at this moment?
Well, Rahul, good evening. This data seems to be directionally correct. I don't think so many polls would get it in one direction, in unison. Secondly, there is a lot of indirect data evidence to suggest that this could be what is happening. So, for example, even if the NDA government could be losing anti-incumbent votes, what that number of JSP shows that Mr. Prashant Kishor has effectively served as a safety cooker pressure valve to get all the anti-incumbent votes towards himself, a part of it.
But you don't know yet that he's got the anti-incumbent vote. That breakup we don't have just at this moment. Yeah. Where did he get his votes from?
Yeah. But it seems that that has not harmed the NDA. So certainly he served like some sort of a safety valve. The second point is the enhanced turnout. Now, wherever we have had enhanced turnouts like Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, the women have either lagged the men marginally or have been almost the same. Bihar is the rare exception where the women are substantially more than the men. The gender gap in the turnout is substantial, which means that could be working for the NDA.
Okay, let's take a look, in fact, at the gap between men and women when it comes to voting. In the data that's been put out so far, there is a stark gap that we're seeing between the 2020 polling percentages, the 2025 first phase and the second phase. The level of enthusiasm that we've seen is higher than in past polls. Ajit Jha, you traveled with us through some parts of Bihar. This is the maximum voting your state has seen going back to independence. And second phase seems to be even bigger turnout than first phase.
Yes, Rahul, you're absolutely right. In fact, 3 or 4 features of this election make it very different from the previous elections. One is, if you look at the NDA average, it's almost double that of the Mahagathbandhan, which means it is a miracle election like 2010 when the BJP and JDU did its best. It looks almost equivalent to 2010, number one. Number two, the fact that even if the SIR sort of increased the turnout, still on an average about 4 to 5% turnout has increased. So that shows that this is perhaps what we call the wave election, because obviously the NDA seats are very high. So it's what is explaining the wave?
2010 was the last time the NDA did as well, when the JDU by itself was 115 seats. That's the last highest. The question is, can they together beat that? Veer Sanghvi, the fact that you've got an incumbent chief minister who's not all there, there's 20 years of history and therefore anti-incumbency and baggage, and yet Ajit Jha says what we've seen is a wave election. What does that say about the state of the opposition?
Well, assuming the usual qualifications that these figures are right, it says that there is, first of all, a certain amount of affection for this government at the center, because the NDA factor should not be ignored. It isn't just Nitish, but it's also about Nitish. I think Nitish now is just about iconic status in Bihar. People know it's his last election. They didn't want to bring him down. They didn't want to humiliate him. And it also, as you correctly says, shows the failure of the opposition to predict, to show anything that's different, anything that inspires people to find an issue. I don't know how much difference Prashant Kishor is going to make, but whatever votes he does get, I think come from the opposition, which has hurt them.
GVL Narasimha Rao joins us, senior leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party, also a cephalogist in his own right. GVL, very comfortably placed, happy. Are you confident that this is the way the numbers will be on the evening of the 14th? Or are you still concerned that maybe the pollsters are predicting too much for the NDA? Or is it never?
Rahul, no, I think it's a very, very positive election. Let me give you some observations of my own from my surveys and also from my field visits. I haven't seen an election where even your opposition voters are not critical of you. They are not of the government, of its performance. The strongest supporters and voters of RJD also do not say anything negative against the chief minister or the state government. A very strong pro-incumbency election. I have not seen such an election in any state in the recent past, and I have seen several such elections, as you know. very strong, and then a very, very strong performance beyond expectations. Ordinary Biharis honestly possibly didn't expect the kind of delivery that this government has done in the past 5 years in terms of roads, in terms of Bijli Sadak Pani, where an average performance would satisfy voters. This performance has been beyond expectations. And certainly they deliver, they credit it to both the Chief Minister and also Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. So double engine Sarkar, the best benefits of double engine government were in evidence in Bihar. And when you have your voters, another interesting thing I've observed, and supporters of your own NDA, normally when you're in government for such a long time, they would have some complaints or other against your performance. Not a single complaint. Your voters become your spokespeople, and your opposition voters are not critical of you. So the only thing that we are battling is some level of anti-incumbency at the local constituency level. And where you have beaten that, you win that seat. So I think certainly there is caste factor. You cannot deny the presence of caste factor in Bihar. So is the case in every other state. We tend to discredit Bihar. I think caste is as big a factor in Kerala, in Karnataka, in my own home state. But in Bihar, it becomes a little simplistic explanation for most of us. But beyond
meanwhile,
that,
what's the opposition up to? Rahul Gandhi's put out a video. It's the Pookie video. He's with a bunch of Gen Z voters, very young voters, talking to them. They're talking to him. They seem to be having a good time. I'll show you a clip of that video. And then Tehseen Poonawalla, from what we're gathering, it's possible that Rahul's gone abroad again. Just see that Pookie video. It's a fun video. But the question is, if a leader who's been in power for 20 years cannot be ousted by the young guns, the supposed young guns, Tejaswi and Rahul Gandhi together, then when are they ever going to be able to win an election? It's a very, very serious question.
I think it's a serious question, and I think the opposition parties will have to reflect upon it. I mean, it's all nice that we have these YouTube videos, Pookie and all of that, but is Pookie helping us win Bihar?
What is Pookie?
I don't know. What is Pookie? I don't know what is Pookie.
Let's just see the video for a moment.
Did you just fall short?
You can call me whatever you want.
Sir?
Why are you calling me sir anyway? You said we'll choose a name for you, and now you chose such a boring name, sir. Call me something fun. Bro is cool. Bro is cool. Okay, call me bro then.
We are Gen Zs. I'll give you a few words, sir. You need to tell me the meaning
Now I'm
of
in
the
trouble.
Gen Z slang. Like
Now I'm in trouble.
Cap.
Cap.
Yes.
I'm Pookie.
Riz.
What?
Riz. R-I-Z. R-I-Z. We have a lot of Riz.
Okay, Shubhrashtra has cracked it. She knows what Pookie is. Shubhrashtra, what is Pookie?
Cute.
Cute.
I hope I got it right.
Shubhrashtra is Gen Z.
Pookie is a term of endearment used to describe someone or something that is cute and loved, often as the nickname for a partner, friend, or pet.
This is Google Mata telling you this.
This is AI. This is
AI
contribution to this.
Chat GPT. He's Chat
Not your favorite.
This is Google Chrome.
No, did you Google it or did you Chat GPT?
It's on Gemini.
Oh,
it's on the AI tool of Google.
But it's a nice thing that our leader is seen as relatable, cute. But then that's not enough.
No, but in a political context, as they say in Bihar, Veer Sangvi, ye kya hi chal raha hai? There's a real election happening. For a long time, Rahul Gandhi was missing during this campaign, and now if this is the way the numbers look, Tejaswi and Rahul Gandhi just come out looking very shabby.
There's a sense in which Rahul felt, I think, he was unhappy with the terms of the alliance. He was not that invested in Bihar. Otherwise, you can't explain his behavior. This kind of video won't necessarily work in Bihar, but it helps build his national brand as this cute guy who gets on well with the young people, which I think is ultimately going to be his constituency. I suspect throughout, he was looking beyond Bihar at the larger national picture.
But there's one second. I don't agree with you, Veer Sangvi. There's a match going on now. You're saying, I don't like the field setting for this match, so I won't bat in this match. I'll do net practice for some match in the future.
Yeah, but he may score a century in the match in the future, I think is the argument. I'm not defending him, I'm only telling you what the argument is.
Rahul, we are going into various analysis of these numbers, provided,
of course,
I'm presuming they are correct. I think there may be a simpler explanation.
Which is?
In 2020, Chirag Paswan and LJP contested separately, contested mainly against JDU. We all know why. And if I'm not mistaken, hurt the JDU in 25 seats. If the three parties now come together into a pragmatic coalition, that makes all the difference. It becomes a formidable arithmetic to defeat.
No, but of course, but that's why
opposition?
Kanchan Gupta, the opposition's task is to find some solution to break through. They can't say the opposition team is very strong and therefore we won't fight.
But you see, you can't really contest an election without having a sense of what the local, cultural, social, political context is all about. Now, Rahul Gandhi goes on a fishing trip with the mullahs. Now, your polls, if the poll, as Ashok says, provided the numbers hold, where is the mullah vote, which was supposed to sort of be the booster rocket? So you get trapped into doing things.
No, but at least he tried to get the mullah vote. He's trying to do more than MY. That's the effort he made.
Rahul, parties exist to win elections, not experiment with elections.
Rahul,
so it's not a charity house that you are running.
No, but what point? No, one second. What point do these cute videos serve? What's really going on here?
Can I just be brutally honest? And I really want the Congress to win. It's 15 years we are not in government, right? I've hit my 40s. I do visualize myself someday being in parliament, right? In the next 2029, Rahul will be almost 60. It's all cute, but we have to win elections. If we believe genuinely the constitution is danger, you media guys are bad, everything has to change, we have to make the country Hakuna Matata, and we have to get utopia in India, we need to be in power. And there is no other alternative. And for that, we need to be hardcore. We cannot start an election, have a tempo, go away, then come back, then go away. We have to keep fighting. And there is no other way. You have to get up every morning and say, what do I do to think like Modi and defeat Modi? That is just the way politics
like
is
Modi,
done.
I have a theory. The people
Period.
who, just one line, the people who understand Pookie care more about the New York mayor election than the Bihar election.
No, that's true.
Did
you know Pookie before this?
I had to rely on Chetan Bhagat, the kind of person who uses Pookie.
Rahul, a very serious statistical point. With about 8% of the votes, the Congress has bargained for almost a quarter of the assembly in the alliance, 61 on 243 seats. Now, there are other parties in the past which got much smaller shares in alliance, like the BSP in UP, like the BJP in Maharashtra, yet they put up a much more valiant fight. The question therefore is, why is Mr. Rahul Gandhi not putting up that valiant fight?
Why is he not doing it?
That's for all to
One guy who fought, I don't know how it's going to end, is Prashant Kishor. You can't take away the fact that he fought. Okay? He was out there in every single way fighting. I've got Saurabh Singh, national spokesperson of the Jan Suraj party. Saurabh, welcome. The post-poll studies don't seem very favorable towards the Jan Swaraj. It starts at 0 and ends at 5. Nobody's saying any more than 5. Prashant Kishor told me Arsh ya Farsh. It seems more likely the floor than the ceiling.
Okay, good evening, Rahulji. First of all, Bihar is not easy to crack for anyone. For that matter, I'll give you 3 reasons why this exorbitant number will surprise everyone on 40. The first is, if you see last election and this one, there is an increase of around 13% in youth participation. Last time it was around 58%, this time it's 71%. I'm talking about the first phase. Second phase number, we've not been able to, calculate. Second, the most important is this time around, in last 15 to 20 years, Bihar has never seen election in and around Chhath Puja. Around 50 to 55 lakh migrant people had come to Bihar. Generally, they were bound to return because it was linked to their, jobs and everything. This time around, they stick inside the Bihar. And our estimate is around 40 lakh people have voted additionally. And these numbers will reflect you both in terms of women voter and the person who's earning, the food for the home. So he's the big influencer. Third, and the most important thing, you are calculating 1.41 crore women who've got 10,000. You've missed the 2.1 crore women who haven't got this 10,000 rupees. And I'll tell you once again.
But that's not really how it played out. You know, we'd gone into some farms in Purnia, spoken to women. 8 out of 12 women, Ajiji, you were with us, had got the 10,000 rupees. The others weren't resentful. They actually felt, inko mil gaya, hame bhi mil jayega. It's only a matter of time.
Yes, Rahulji. And
Do you think GVL Narasimha Rao, that was the game changer? Because if it was, then I can guarantee to you that if you pay 10,000 in Bihar, you'll have to pay more in Assam. You'll have to pay more before every election, because then that unfortunately becomes the standard expectation of the voters, that you have to cash do, vote low.
Rahul, the way this may have added a little more edge to the BJP or the NDA, I won't deny that. But this was a significant factor or a major factor? No, I would disagree, because women vote was always more favorable towards the NDA and the BJP. They certainly have a huge tilt towards both Chief CM Nitish Kumar and Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. So this may have been, and this is not what has been promised is up to 2 lakhs. This amount will increase. This will be a sort of a loan that they will have to repay. This is some kind of a self-employment enterprise. What else do you want? How do you expect actually Bihar to grow? I think this is the best thing that can ever happen to Bihar. When all these people start their micro enterprise.
Spinning it very well, but it's basically 10,000 rupees in the account.
Rahul, please, on the migrants thing. You know, what is a very close example? West Bengal has never witnessed such huge migration out of the state of the working age population. Mamata Banerjee made this grand announcement, come back to the state, I will give you 5,000 rupees each of you per month. Now NDTV reports this, okay, I'll just read it out, and it's from the NDTV. We are giving rupees 5,000 to Mamata Banerjee. You should immediately run away from Bengal. Every migrant worker earns 50,000 to rupees 1.5 lakhs per month. Now that is also true for the migrant workers from Bihar. They are they are not.
They are assume that migrants are always laborers.
Or every migrant is not a rickshaw puller or a rickshaw driver.
Of course not.
There are engineers, there are people in the service industry, there are people who work in hotels, in restaurants, everywhere. Now they are not going to crib that.
Okay, Ajit Jha has a question for Saurabh Singh. Go on.
So, Saurabh Singh, not only did the Jan Swaraj proved to be a disaster in this election. The fact that Prashant Kishor went to town saying that Nitish will never get more than 25 seats. What we are looking at is a wave for Nitish Kumar. And he kept saying, if he gets more than 25 seats, I'll give up politics. That's a typical Prashant Kishor style. Now, will he give up politics if the exit polls are right?
So I'll tell you what, let's wait for the 14th, and we are still holding to that. First of all, you are saying that Prashant Kishor, everybody is fortunately or unfortunately fighting on the same pitch where Prashant was working in last 3 years. Now, Amit Shah ji had to talk about flood and 25 sugar mills after the first stage of election. Have you forgotten that? And we are the one, for the first time in Bihar is not fighting on the basis of Agda Pichda and Hindu Muslim. This is the contribution of Jan Swaraj and Prashant Kishor.
It matters only to a certain extent who sets the agenda. What matters is who wins the match. I want to go across to Shahnawaz Hussain, senior leader of the BJP. Shahnawaz Saab, welcome to NDTV. सेकेंड फेज की पोलिंग के बाद आपको अलग अलग जगहों से जहां पे आज पोलिंग हुई 122 सीटों पर क्या फीडबैक मिला? आपके हिसाब से बीजेपी और जेडीयू अभी कहां खड़े?
नहीं, मैं तो खुद देख कर आया हूं। देखिए, मैंने खुद ही वोट किया है, निशान देख रहे होंगे आप। और मैं सुपौल में था, वहां से मैं पूर्णिया आया, तो सुपौल, अररिया, पूर्णिया क्रॉस किया। बीच में मैं कुछ लोगों से मिला भी हूं। एक जगह चाय पी मैंने जलालगढ़ में, वहाँ लोगों से पूछा। एक जगह और अररिया में रुका, फरविशगंज के पास। तो जिस तरह रिपोर्टर घूमते हैं, मैं तो रूट पे था क्योंकि मुझे जहाज़ पकड़ना था। तो मैंने चाय के बहाने रुककर पूछा, तो सब जगह एक तरफा पोल हो रहा था। और मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कि कई लोग कह रहे हैं, कल भी मैंने आपसे बात की थी, जो परसेंटेज बढ़ रहा है, क्योंकि पहले जो वोटर थे जो डेथ कर गए थे या जिनके नाम 2 जगह थे, वो वोटर थे, तो वो अब नहीं है, तो जेन्युइन वोटर है, बोनाफाइड वोटर है। तो इसलिए वोट परसेंटेज ज़्यादा दिख रहा है, लेकिन ज़्यादातर लोग वोट कर रहे थे, अच्छा वोट कर रहे थे। और मैंने बहुत दिनों के बाद देखा कि लोग सरकार इतने साल से रहते हुए सरकार के पक्ष में वोट कर रहे थे। और हमने तो अपने बूथ पर भी किसी से नहीं पूछा, लेकिन लोगों ने कहा तीर है, नीतीश कुमार है। तो माहौल एक तरफा है। और देखिए महागठबंधन तो कैंपेन में ही वो कहीं नहीं था। तेजस्वी यादव का आज मुझे मुकेश सहनी मिल गए थे हवाई जहाज़ में, तेजस्वी यादव के हेलीकॉप्टर के साथी, और उनसे मैंने पूछा कि आप कितनी सभा करते थे, तो उन्होंने कहा 15, 17, 18। तो मैंने कहा उसमें करते क्या थे? बोले बस हाथ उठाते थे, माइक पकड़ते थे, 2 लाइन बोलते थे, फिर चल देते थे। तो आप ये समझिए कि वो ऐसे बिहेव कर रहे थे जैसे वो कोई फिल्म स्टार हो, ऐसे ऐसे हाथ दिखाएंगे, लोग उनकी बात कर लेंगे। इन्होंने कोई बात नहीं रखी, एक दिन में 15 सभा कर ली। इनके यहाँ कैंपेन पूरी तरह फेल हो गया।
आपके पास विशाल आर्मी है, उनके पास नहीं है, वो तेजस्वी अकेला है, तो उसके पास क्या ऑप्शन है? करनी पड़ेगी 15 सभा। आपके पास इतनी विशाल
अकेला
सेना है।
क्यों? अब्दुल माई समीकरण है, तो एक हेलीकॉप्टर पे अब्दुल बारी सिद्दीकी क्यों नहीं है? क्या होता
Okay, let me put that question to Tariq Anwar, member of parliament from Katihar, joins us on this broadcast, senior leader of the Congress party. Tariq साहब,
तारिक अनवर साहब,
ये जो सारे एग्जिट पोल का डेटा आ रहा है, शाहनवाज जी कह रहे जहां उन्होंने रुक के चाय पी, वो तो और पता चल रहा है कि जेडीयू और बीजेपी की लहर है। If this is the way it ends on the 14th, this is not an ordinary victory. It's a massive sweep for the NDA if it turns out this way on the 14th. Where do you think the Gadbandhan went wrong, Tariq साहब?
मेरा ये मानना है कि एग्ज़िट पोल एग्जैक्ट पोल नहीं होता है। हम लोगों ने पहले भी कई बार देखा है कि एग्ज़िट पोल गलत साबित हुए हैं, लेकिन फिर भी मैं इसको एक इंडिकेशन मानता हूँ। और अगर ये एग्ज़िट पोल एग्जैक्ट पोल में अगर तब्दील होता है तो हमारे लिए चिंता का विषय है। और ऐसा लगता है कि तब हम कहीं ना कहीं जनता को कन्विंस करने में, उनको अपने साथ लेने में कामयाब नहीं हुए हैं।
पर क्यों कामयाब नहीं हुए? You know, it happened in Haryana, happened later in Maharashtra, now again in Bihar. Why do you think the opposition is repeatedly failing to best the NDA and to find a way of beating the Modi machine?
देखिए, अब वो तो अभी फ़ौरन कोई रिएक्शन देना मेरा ख्याल है मुनासिब नहीं होगा। और रिज़ल्ट आने के बाद उसका पूरा उसकी समीक्षा, उसका हम लोग देखेंगे कहाँ पर कमी रह गई, कहाँ महागठबंधन में जो हमारे कैंपेन था उसमें क्या कमज़ोरी रह गई। इन सब चीज़ों की समीक्षा होनी चाहिए और होगी, मुझे उम्मीद है। और हम देखेंगे अगर ये रिज़ल्ट में तब्दील हुआ तो। लेकिन अभी भी मुझे उम्मीद है कि
नीतीश जी को ही सीएम बनाएंगे या 14 आते आते नेताओं के स्वर थोड़े बदल जाएंगे इस सवाल पे?
नहीं कहा, हमने कभी कहा, अमित शाह जी ने खुद ही कहा कि मुख्यमंत्री और प्रधानमंत्री का पद खाली नहीं है, जनता मैंडेट देगी तो ज़रूर उनके नेतृत्व में सरकार बनेगी, जो प्रक्रिया है वो पूरी होगी। आपसे भी इंटरव्यू में कहा है। मैं तो मानता हूँ कि जो माहौल है, मैं बहुत दिन से कैंपेन करता हूँ राहुल जी, और मैंने कभी भी इतना बिखरा हुआ कैंपेन महागठबंधन का नहीं देखा। कभी ऐसा नहीं देखा कि वो आपस में सीटों पे लड़ रहे हैं, अपने सिटिंग एमएलए, अपने सिटिंग मिनिस्टर का टिकट काट रहे हैं। और मैंने कई जगह देखा कि ये बेमन से चुनाव लड़ रहे थे। मुझे लग रहा है ये कांग्रेस और राजद में ये था कि एक दूसरे की पार्टी फिनिश करनी है, वो हमसे लड़ ही कहाँ रहे थे। तो पूरे कैंपेन में जैसे मैंने कहा, आपने एक लाइन कह दी कि उनके यहाँ तो तेजस्वी अकेला नेता है। महागठबंधन में तारिक अनवर साहब, शकील अहमद साहब, अब्दुल बारी सिद्दीकी, अगर आप माई समीकरण बात करते हैं तो ये बड़े बड़े एस्टेब्लिश लीडर हैं। लेकिन इन लोगों की भी कहाँ मीटिंग्स देखी मैंने। वो तेजस्वी यादव ने 2
हेलीकॉप्टर आपकी हुई कोई जॉइंट रैली तेजस्वी के साथ?
एक हेलीकॉप्टर
आप थे तेजस्वी के साथ मंच पर? वो कह रहे हैं शाहनवाज हुसैन करा तो लड़ा ही रहे हैं, वो कह रहे हैं कि आपका यूज नहीं किया उन्होंने ठीक से।
शाहनवाज साहब नहीं, ठीक है, मैंने ज़्यादा समय अपनी कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी में दिया, ये बात सही है, लेकिन कई जगह हम लोग साथ भी रहे और तेजस्वी जी भी रहे, राहुल जी भी रहे, प्रियंका गांधी भी रही, सब लोग मंच शेयर किया है, ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं किया है। लेकिन अब जो इंडिकेशन है वो तो हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि उसमें हम लोगों को काफ़ी पीछे दिखाया जा रहा है, लेकिन फिर भी हमें उम्मीद है कि अगर हम लोगों ने इशू सही उठाया है, जो कि बेरोज़गारी का, भ्रष्टाचार का, पलायन का, गरीबी का, सब जो इश्यूज़ है ये बहुत हर इंसान को छूता है और बिहार की जो दुर्दशा है वो तो सबके सामने है। लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी अगर एनडीए को समर्थन मिलता है या उनको सरकार बनाने की हैसियत दी जाती है, तो मौका दिया जाता है, तो ये बहुत
Okay, Shahnawaz Hussain, thank you for joining us. He's not saying so, but Tariq Anwar Veer seems almost resigned to his fate, virtually to the extent that
he came on the show thinking he had to make a stand, but he knew what was going to happen. He does not seem like he's arguing too much about the
No, because he also knows the reality on the ground. He's in Katihar, he's seen what's happening around him.
Yeah. He's not a happy bunny, no?
No, and also the fact that the point that Shahnawaz Hussain ji makes, that they simply couldn't get their campaign together.
Yeah.
At no point did it seem that there was a cogent, potent fighting machine trying to unseat the NDA from power.
Yeah. I also think they have another problem, which is there was a time when all psephologists used to talk about anti-incumbency. What you are now seeing is a phenomenon is pro-incumbency. It's becoming more and more difficult to dislodge governments, partly because...
Only if they are NDA governments. If they are opposition governments, like the Congress in Chhattisgarh, they got dislodged quite easily.
True. But the NDA generally, you could argue it's because of electoral factors, the election commission, as the Congress does. You could argue it's because of welfare schemes. You mentioned the 10,000 rupees, but whatever it is, if you are going to break out of that rut where the NDA wins every time, you have to be imaginative. You can't afford to fight with each other. You have to come up with something.
You have to fight like your life depends on it. You can't be fighting with each other.
Which clearly they didn't, no?
Yeah. No, and Rahul, the larger point, they always said that the BJP had made a science out of winning.
Yeah.
It has a huge electoral machinery, a very scientific way to organize the campaign. Now, many of those replicas are out of the shadows of the BJP. Many of them have run campaigns for the Congress.
Yeah.
Yet, why is the Congress not able to replicate the success of the BJP? That's point number one. Point number two, did Mr. Rahul Gandhi overplay his hand in trying to seek a larger share in the bargain with the RJD for seats, and therefore...
No, but because he didn't get more, he apparently got upset, and that's why he went abroad.
So effectively, he harmed the cause of the alliance. That's something congressmen should be answering for.
See, if you look at the coalitions, and this is true for many states, not just Bihar, but Bihar still really is a Lalu and Lalu's family versus Nitish fight at its core. The BJP adds value to Nitish. The Congress does not do anything for Tejasvi.
Which is what I said. It's 25% is too much to give the Congress.
Yeah.
Ravi Shankar Ravi joins us. He's a spokesperson of Tejasvi's party, the RJD. Ravi Shankar Ravi ji, तेजस्वी ने चॉपर तो खूब घुमाया, लेकिन जो डेटा आया है अभी तक उसके हिसाब से it's the NDA that's very comfortably placed to win. According to all the exit polls, they're all singing the same tune.
No, I mean, I do not agree with the exit polls.
He doesn't agree.
I think the plank on which this election was fought, it is the Mahagathbandhan which had set the plank, which was jobs, which was employment, which was situation of law and order. And Tejaswiji's appeal to the youth and his connect with the youth, particularly the first-time voters, I believe they have in our support and they have voted for us. And we are in a comfortable situation. And we will...
Jay Mrug has a question for you. Jay.
Mr. Ravi, I would actually like to allude to the larger coalition building abilities of the Congress itself. In the southern states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala, Tamil Nadu, where the Congress gracefully accepts a very, very junior partner position, even in terms of number of seats. In Kerala, where it gracefully gives out seats to its allies in spite of being a senior partner, the alliance meets with some success, a fair degree of success. don't you think the Congress should now be showing the generosity in states like Bihar and UP to ensure the success of the UP and the Mahagathbandhan?
I think in any coalition, the coalition partners always try to, have more number of seats to fight in the elections. And this is what happened in Mahagathbandhan also in this election. And that is one of the reasons which was very evident that on a few seats there have been friendly fight. And what Sahnawaz Hussain Sahab was saying, I think in any coalition there is infighting, and he was projecting the infighting of the NDA onto us, which was not evident in the public sphere because they could settle comfortably on the seats and there was no friendly fight for them. But there is always some kind of infighting, some kind of conflict,
Tehseen Punawala, could the Gathbandhan have done something differently to try and change the outcome, or do you think just at the starting point, the caste arithmetic was so favorable towards the NDA that the election in many ways was pre-decided?
So I had told Tejaswi this, that for him to win and go beyond the 35, one more caste will have to be added. One more, preferably an OBC caste would have to be added, and that wasn't just Mukesh Saini ji's caste, so that had to be added. Apart from that, I think what the Congress made one fundamental mistake in was this was too much of an attack on again the issues of the constitution, the prime minister. The prime minister and the constitution were not the issues in the Bihar elections. I think the Congress's traditional vote bank, which it's lost, it has to try and get it back. Some of the upper caste, some of the Dalit vote bank, which has moved towards the BJP.
No, but this is a very important point, Veer, that Tehseen makes, that harping about the constitution and issues of national significance in an assembly context, this is a local election. People want to know what is their MLA going to do for them. Is Rahul reading the script wrong?
No, I got the impression throughout the campaigns, I just said that in his mind he'd written Bihar off. He didn't care that much about what would happen. He would use it to make national points, which he hoped to resound with his...
Now, I want to go across to Manoj Singh. Manoj Singh is joining us now. He's from Matriz. It's one of the pollsters whose data we put out. So I want to welcome Manoj. Manoj, Aye, welcome. Let's show Manoj's data and then he can explain this to our viewers. So if you just stay a little on the side, leave some space in the middle. 147 to 167 is what Manoj is predicting for the NDA. The Gathbandhan at just between 70 and 90. So all the Gathbandhan parties together less than what the RJD got by itself last time. And Jan Swaraj just between 0 and 2. Basis क्या है आपके calculation का? How have you come to what looks like a sweeping mandate for the NDA?
इस बार का जो चुनाव है, ये चुनाव नीतीश वर्सेज महागठबंधन के ऊपर में है। महागठबंधन इसलिए कि जिस चीज़ को महागठबंधन ने लोगों के बीच में लेकर आया कि नीतीश के वो जो एज है, जो भूल रहे हैं, ये है, और वही उनके लिए हथियार साबित कैसे कि महिलाएं जो कोर वोटर थी इनके महागठबंधन एनडीए की, उसमें महिलाओं का सबसे बड़ा योगदान है। और इस बार आप देख रहे हैं कि पोल में सबसे ज़्यादा किसी का उत्सुकता है तो महिलाओं का है। लंबी कतारें लगी हुई हैं, पोल चल रहे हैं और लोगों का इमेज खराब नहीं है। जैसे इन लोगों ने कहा कि हमें रोजगार देंगे, लेकिन देने वाला कौन है, उसका इमेज जनता के बीच में कैसा है, तो लोग सोचते हैं कि अरे ये तो लालू शासन वाली बात हो रही है।
पर आपको लगा कि जो उनकी इतनी तबीयत नासाज है, जो तमाम कहानियां बिहार में, उसका कोई नेगेटिव नहीं इम्पैक्ट हुआ? आप कह रहे हैं कि बल्कि फायदा है।
हाँ, महिलाओं ने ये कहा कि ये मेरा समय है नीतीश का कर्ज उतारने का। चूंकि 4 इलेक्शन आप देखेंगे, रिजर्वेशन भी उन्होंने दिया, महिलाओं को 50% निकाय चुनाव में, उन्होंने रिक्शा साइकिल भी दिया, महिलाओं को स्कूल ड्रेस दिया, ये किया, और अभी जाकर 10,000 रुपया दिया, और उन्होंने वादा भी किया कि मैं 2 लाख रुपये तक भी इसको सहायता के रूप में दूंगा। तो महिलाओं को लगा कि जो पहले से मुझे करता आ रहा है और जो ये बोल रहे हैं, महागठबंधन के लोग बोल रहे हैं, तो वो 20 साल का शासन जो उनका था, जैसे अभी भी 60 साल का शासन कांग्रेस के लिए परेशान करता है, वो समझ नहीं पाता कि उससे कैसे छुटकारा पाए। वही महागठबंधन में था कि हम कैसे इनसे छुटकारा पाए। आप देखेंगे तेजस्वी के पूरे कैंपेन में लालू यादव के शासन का कोई वर्णन नहीं है। वर्णन कहाँ होता था? वो 18 महीना जो नीतीश के नेतृत्व में उन्होंने शासन किया था। तो यहाँ लोगों के अंदर विश्वास जो नीतीश के प्रति बना था, और तेजस्वी कभी भी आप देखेंगे बहुत एग्रेसिव नहीं हो पाए, उनके शासन को लेकर काउंटर नहीं कर पाए, तो यहाँ पे हुआ। और दूसरी राहुल
जन स्वराज का बताइए कि जन स्वराज को आप दिखा रहे हैं 0 से 2, तो आपके हिसाब से कोई इम्पैक्ट दिखा आपके पोल में कि नहीं?
मुझे लग रहा है कि यदि जन स्वराज इससे आगे बढ़ता तो एनडीए जो फोल्डर है वो काफी नीचे आता, क्योंकि इनके पास जो वोट आ रहा था वो फॉरवर्ड क्लास से आ रहा था। और मेरा मानना है कि ये जो रुकावट हुआ है कि फॉरवर्ड क्लास वोटर टूटकर महागठबंधन में नहीं गया है।
कैसे तो रुका कैसे? क्योंकि बीच में पोल्स में लग रहा था कि बढ़ रहा है जन स्वराज, पीछे कैसे हुआ?
नहीं, वो उस समय जब नाराजगी दिख रही थी 6 महीना पीछे की, आप देखिएगा कि नीतीश को लेकर स्टेट में पूरी नाराजगी दिख रही थी, इसके बाद ये सारा हुआ था। और फॉरवर्ड क्लास के जो वोटर थे उनको लग रहा था कि अब नीतीश कुमार का शासन को समाप्त हो रहा है, और महिलाओं के लिए वैसा कुछ विशेष चीज नहीं दिख रहा था। इसी बीच उन्होंने लेकर 10,000 रुपये लेकर आए, आंगनबाड़ी केंद्र के महिलाओं को दिया, जो रसोइयाँ थी उनको उन्होंने, सारे ये चीज़ें जब होने लगे, डिलीवर होने लगा, तो लोगों के नीतीश के प्रति जो ये प्रभाव पड़ा, तो जो फॉरवर्ड क्लास वोटे जो जाकर जन स्वराज के पास बैठे थे वो धीरे धीरे वापस। होता क्या है, आप याद रखिए 2020 का उत्तर प्रदेश का इलेक्शन को याद रखिए कि ये बोला जाता था कि ब्राह्मण योगी आदित्यनाथ से नाराज है, लेकिन जैसे जैसे चुनाव नजदीक आता रहा वो ब्राह्मण एनडीए के फोल्डर में वापस आते।
Let's look at the Matri's vote share. It will give you a sense of how the seats are actually translating into votes. You're predicting 48% of the vote for the NDA, up from 37 originally and 42 in the current formation. Gadbandhan you're saying is 37, which is where they were. So the big story here is that you're essentially saying the Gadbandhan Jaimrig added no votes. That's what Manoj's data is saying. Gadbandhan was at 37, they're still at 37. NDA was at 42, they've gone up to 48 according to his poll.
Yeah, I would quite agree with those numbers. I go back to the experience in Maharashtra. After the very similar pattern, the women doles were doled out just before the assembly election. In Maharashtra, the NDA touched a peak of 49.3% votes. So 48 here looks absolutely plausible. Now the other point which I was making, PK as a safety valve, that 5% is something that PK has prevented from going to MGB. That would have been 42, to have made the contest much more closer.
No, but you can't assume that all 5% came
which
from
is
the
by and large
Gadbandhan.
the expectation, as he was saying कि वो अधिकतर सवर्ण वोट था जो बीजेपी से छूट रहा था. So in a way, safety valve, but 48, 49, Madhya Pradesh again, 50 with the women dole schemes is the sort of number you can achieve.
This then, Kanchan Gupta, seems to be becoming a template. Transfer money either in monthly installments or in one big tranche to the women voters. It's worked in the last several elections and helps you win.
Well, you make it sound as if, somebody is gifting you money to vote for you.
It is.
It's not. Second. See, in our system, in our society, when a woman gets money into her, first of all, for her to have her own bank account, 2, to get money into that account, 3, to have control over that money. I mean, it empowers women like never before. I mean, you have to see how women react in Madhya Pradesh every time you have Shivraj Singh Chauhan going out into the public. I mean, similarly, you have to see people reacting in say Maharashtra now, or in Bihar, as we have seen the numbers stacking up. And again, I repeat, you make it sound only as if they are voting for the money. No,
it's the whole package.
There are hidden factors.
No, of course.
Like
Veer Sangvi, he's
water
right.
on the tap, I think plays a huge role. The better public health indicators, they play a huge role.
No, but some of that, my argument is, some of that, Veer Sangvi, gets factored in. You take it for granted once the water is there. This 10,000 rupees is like instant gratification, is that sugar rush. You get it and you feel happy, and it to some extent changes how you feel about the way you're placed right now.
I think you're right, Rahul. It is a new template. Every incumbent government before the elections will hand out something to women, to other people. Otherwise, people don't vote. If voters get used to that, there are consequences for Indian democracy and for Indian elections. But we've come a long way. If you look at Manmohan Singh's first term as finance minister, we thought his biggest contribution was the liberalization. As prime minister, his basic contribution was Narega. When they introduced Narega, if you remember, every opposition party, including the BJP, opposed it and said you're making people lazy, you're handing out things. Well, guess what? Everyone is now doing it.
Ashok Malik, you get voters used to this, it's a trap, it's a welfare trap, and there's no way out. And Bihar is the most impoverished state in the country.
Look, two things here. One, in a time of very poor job creation, not just in India but worldwide, the fact is parties are going to have to resort to welfare. Okay. Now, what welfare
this is what the PM said won't happen. He said he's opposed to reveries.
What welfare is justified and what welfare is not justified is a matter of subjectivity. I appreciate that. Okay, and different parties will disagree or agree. I would also say, I agree with Kanchan that it's not that people take the money and immediately vote. Let's give people more credit. In the Karnataka election, the last Karnataka election, both parties, the opposition Congress and the incumbent BJP, promised cash transfers, promised welfare. Okay, but the BJP was still unseated because it was seen as perhaps crossing the threshold.
But Chetan, it's a trap. Once Indian politics gets stuck in that chakravyuh, I don't know what the way out is.
See, it's two ways to look at it. One is, of course, it is a race to the bottom. It's fiscal irresponsibility. But at the same time, India is growing 6-8% and it's not trickling down properly. You know, there are some segments which have made a lot of money, done very well. And that's not just the super elite. 5-10% of the population has seen a lot of, and they really like this government for that. But there's a lot of India which gets left out in the growth, and this is one way
Let's take a look at the gender breakup, because this, I think, is one of the important things that comes out of the Matrice data. The skew towards the NDA, the overwhelming, unquestionable skew in his data. 52% of the men said they voted NDA, 65%. But just basic maths, if your vote share is 48 and men is 52, women is 65, the vote share should actually be much more. At a base, it should be 52. It should be actually 58, 59. आपने मैथ्स की कैसे?
अब उस पे आते हैं. देखिए, जो 52% है,
अगर 52% पुरुष और 65% महिलाएं बोल रही कि एनडीए को दिया, तो आपका 59% वोट शेयर हुआ, तो 48 कैसे हुआ?
फिर आप ध्यान दीजिए, ये विमेंस वोट में कैसे वोट शेयर हुआ है. आप इसके साथ मैच कराएंगे तो हमेशा 100 से ऊपर चला जाएगा. मैं क्या दिया हूँ, वीमेन का वोट कितना है, उसमें एनडीए को कितना आया है. मुझे लग रहा था आप यहाँ गड़बड़.
मनोज जी, राहुल कह रहे हैं 52 is the base. Let's assume they are men and women. 52 is the base. So whatever is the average vote share, then has to be above 52. How is the average vote share 48? Basic maths.
एक्चुअली मैच का ये परसेंटेज है कि जो 52% ये दे रहे 52% और 36% इनके गठबंधन के साथ जा रहे हैं. इसमें महिलाओं का वोट यदि नहीं मिलता तो जितने मार्जिनल सीट इनके साथ फंस रही थी, 52 के बाद भी मार्जिनल सीट बनी थी, तो वो चीजें डिफाइन नहीं कर पाए.
जय मृग हैज अ क्वेश्चन फॉर यू. जय,
नहीं, मैं केवल मनोज जी राहुल के सवाल को आगे लेके जा रहा हूँ. राहुल के सवाल को मैं बहुत साधारण तरीके से बताता हूँ. अगर 100 पुरुष थे, उसमें से 52 ने कहा हम एनडीए को वोट दें, और 100 महिलाएं थी, उसमें से 65 ने कहा हम एनडीए को वोट दें, तो दोनों का औसत कहीं ना कहीं 58 होना चाहिए. तो राहुल का ये कहना है कि वो 58 वोट शेयर होना चाहिए.
वोट परसेंटेज एक विधानसभा से नहीं आता है. जहां बड़ी मार्जिनल सीटें होती हैं वहां जो पोल होता है उसके साथ ये परसेंटेज.
I'll just explain to our viewers what I think has happened without getting lost in technicalities. This is the raw vote share that he's picked up in his sample. Then he's factored it down basis the various calculations that have been put in to actually come at the 48% vote share. Anyway, it's his numbers. There's no point in us getting geeky about it. But statistically, there's an argument which we can have off air if you're interested. Right now, this is not the opportunity. Let me look at the Matrice caste data. Here again, an important argument comes out. 69% of general upper caste voting for the NDA. Gadbandhan only 15%. 78% of the Muslims voting for the Gadbandhan. ये आपको लगता है कि एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर था कि तेजस्वी को, राहुल गांधी को लग रहा था कि दलित बड़ी संख्या में वोट देंगे. वो एक्चुअली ज्यादा वोट तो एनडीए को पड़ा है.
ये दो कारण हुआ. एक तो जैसे इनका अपना तालमेल मुकेश सहनी को लेकर, जीतन मांझी को लेकर, और इधर तेजस्वी को इनको लेकर, तेज प्रताप को एलजेपी को लेकर जो ये इनका समीकरण बना था, उसके कारण से ये सारी चीजें हुई थी कि शेड्यूल कास्ट इनके. और दूसरा जो इन्होंने नीचे स्तर पे जो नीतीश जी ने सेंट्रल की जो पॉलिसी थी उसको उन्होंने डिलीवर किया है. और वहाँ पे आकर महागठबंधन में देखेंगे कि जिस तरीके से मुकेश सहनी को लेकर काफ़ी विरोधाभास रहा, जिस तरीके से उन्होंने प्रेशर पॉलिटिक्स किया, तो कहीं ना कहीं लोगों को लगा कि ये यहीं तक सीमित है. जैसे आप जाएंगे तो मांझी जो है 6 सीट पे लड़ रहे हैं, उनका परफॉर्मेंस देखेगा तो 4 सीटों जीते। मुझसे पूछिएगा तो मैं मानूंगा कि एनडीए फोल्डर में सबसे ज़्यादा स्ट्राइक रेट किसी का इस बार बेटर होगा तो जीतना मांझी जी का होगा। और तेजस्वी इनका क्या कहा जाता है, एलजेपी का परफॉर्मेंस 29 सीटों पर लड़ने के बाद भी उनका परफॉर्मेंस कम हो रहा, तो उनके गठबंधन में सबसे लो
29 सीट। But all right, thank you, Manoj, for joining us. I just want a quick final round of word from all our guests before we wrap up. I'll start with Kanchan Gupta. What would you look out for the most on the 14th? What do you think is the one factor which could change between now and then?
A massive Muslim consolidation. If that were to happen in a sufficient number of seats over and above which would have otherwise gone to Mahagathbandhan, then that would change the situation quite a lot. But as was pointed out, you can't have multiple polls giving the same direction. Now, it's a question of numbers. The numbers may change, the numbers may go up, go down, come down. But I somehow sense, having seen so many polls in my life, this trend is going to hold unless there is, as I said, there's a huge upset that the Muslim consolidation is so big in seats over and above which Mahagathbandhan was expected to win, and then that propels it
upwards. Ashok Malik, what would you be looking out for most on the 14th?
What could change, plausibly what could change from these? I would say perhaps Prashant Kishor is being undercounted. That's one factor. If he is being undercounted indeed, and if he is hurting the NDA, then that could change things. I think the consolidation of Muslims and Yadavs behind the RJD is complete anyway. The question is, can they add a third community? From this, we're not seeing any third sizable community being added.
Chetan?
I think NDA could win very big because the vote shares that are being said, predicting seats are very difficult on exit polls. If the vote share is what it is, NDA could win very big. However, the only thing is sometimes people lie in exit polls. A lot of times people come out and people lie. Like, I don't know if Muslims will say the correct where they voted to a guy who's there. I don't know if that kind of trust exists in Bihar. So you could have a situation where all these polls face the same problem. People don't
hold that analysis from the opposition's lens. Tehseen, what would they be looking out for or hoping for the 14th?
Two things that the Yadav Muslim consolidation has added some layer of the Dalits, because if the Paswan vote is added with Nitish Ji and the EBC vote, there would be other sections of Dalit communities that would ideally like to come with the Congress, Mahagathbandhan and the RJD. The second thing, the Congress has been able to pull some of its traditional upper caste vote into the Mahagathbandhan, as a result of which that 37% suddenly becomes about 41%, and BJP's 48%, the NDA's, has come down to about 45-46%. And then, as Kanchan Das said, the conversion of seats, because the Muslims have consolidated, then adds up in favor of the Congress Mahagathbandhan. But that is too many ifs happening in an election, which seems difficult.
I would very seriously want to study the geographical reconfiguration of constituencies with Election Commission data and see where exactly did gender play a role, and where did the EBC communities play a role this time. Because OBCs, I think,
from a psephological lens on the 14th, what would you look out for? What would you be telling viewers to look out for?
3 specific deviations, if they happen, might alter this result. First, the performance of the MGB in the riverine belt, where the Malla vote is there in substantial numbers. 2, as he rightly pointed out, the substantially high turnout in the Simachal belt. And 3, if we've gone through the candidate list, there are a lot of former Jansangis that the Jan Swaraj has fielded. I'm really curious to know how they perform. So that's another X factor for me.
Some of those Jansangis were brought back to the BJP fold as well. They worked very hard on it. We're out of time. I want to get a final word from Ajit Jha on, after having travelled, written as much as you have, what would you want viewers to look out for on the foot?
Look at the percentage swing. Last time, 0.3% Mahagathbandhan had lost. This time, the poll that we saw, 11%. That is a massive swing for an incumbent after 20 years, which, as I was trying to make the point, this is a clear-cut wave election.
37 doesn't have LJP. If you add LJP, then the starting point is 42, but it's still a 6% swing, which is big. Yes, Veer Sanghvi, final words. what would you look out for the most on the 14th?
I think this trend is pretty hard to defeat. It looks quite clear. However, I think exit polls often are poor at picking up regional variations because they pick few constituencies. There are also these polls. I'm not sure how much they've got of today's voting. I suspect it happened too early for them when they came up with the results too early to count on it.
Which is why you need to come back to NDTV tomorrow. We'll have the Access My India, the C voter, and the vote wipe data.
I don't think it'll be very different, but I think it's worth discussing.
If you like your politics, it's always worth discussing. And the thing about Bihar is they never get tired discussing politics. You can be at it the whole day till the evening. They'll keep talking about their politics, as will we when we come back with part 2 of the post-poll study. Thank you so much for joining us in our new election studio. It's been terrific to have you with us, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you. Goodbye. Good night.